I was charged with transactions of an unregistered securities dealer or salesman. And in today's world, it doesn't even exist any longer. Guys like Cardone who are raising money on Instagram. The internet has completely transformed the way that securities are looked at. Everybody was a criminal, raising millions of dollars, driving expensive cars. For the judge, he said, you should have known better. And as a result, I'm going to make an example out of you.
Where were you born?
Boston, outside of Boston, Framingham. Yeah, that was my quintessential childhood years.
Okay.
There up until 8th grade. So yeah, I think those are, whether you read psychological books or, you recall it, those are like your childhood years you remember. But it was really the tale of two cities with mom and with dad. That behind the walls of the house where everything looks good at the white picket fence, that's really where you start to figure out what life is about.
What was the issue? It wasn't Leave It to Beaver.
No, man, it's never Leave It to Beaver, is it?
No.
Right? No, it's never Leave It to Beaver.
We always say that if it looks like it's just a perfect family and the guy's perfect, the woman, everything, the wife and everything is phenomenal, you find out 15 years later, you're always like, wow, man, the Cleavers were so amazing. And then you find out that Ward had like a sex slave chained up in the basement the whole time. And you're like, what? The whole neighborhood was taking turns and he was, it's like, what?
Yep. There was an oxy issue. But yeah, no,
Beaver
totally,
comes out
man.
on a podcast talking about how he was abused. His
probably go viral.
What?
No, but you're totally right, though. But I think we don't talk about a lot of that. At least that generation didn't talk about a lot of that.
Yeah, no.
No.
You bury that down deep,
deep.
into a hot ball that, and then eventually it turns to cancer and it kills you. But it's good. But for the bulk of your
for the first 35 years,
yeah, you're fine.
You're fine. Fine. Yeah. Men have two options, right? We're either sick or we're fine.
Yeah,
that's it. That's it. You can't complain about it. But yeah, man, no. Behind closed doors, it was rough. My dad was an addict. Was involved in organized crime, and mom was trying to take us to church on Sundays and figure out. How do you take the ideas of, secular religion and pour them into this individual that you're married to and you love, coupled with, a massive addiction?
What when you say organized crime, what kind of organized crime? Like bookmaking or just everything in general?
Everything in general. Back in the day, I think, before Twitter existed, you could get away with some stuff. It was really just neighborhood type stuff that everybody talks about. It was hard loans here and it was collections there. And there was never really a 9-to-5 job. Everybody just kind of had a hustle and, worked for a guy here and worked for a guy there, drove somebody around, picked things up.
So he didn't have like a regular job?
No real regular job during those years. So there was always duffel bags of cash. I remember it vividly. Two things about him was always a red duffel bag of cash and the fanny pack. And the fanny pack was where he walked around with his addict tools. That was, the growing up years was trying to figure out, you go to church on Sunday and you'd sit there in church and you'd go, man, what kind of monster are we going to walk into after church? Is it good? Is it bad? Sometimes he'd be there with chicken on the stove and he'd be vacuuming, and other times he'd be, completely strung out walking around with a 357 in his hand.
I'm sorry, that just reminded me of, my wife has a friend that every once in a while he'll get arrested for being in the street with his, half naked with his gun, walking around screaming. He'll go on a bender and walk around and scream, or he'll think somebody's breaking in the house, walking around, pointing the gun everywhere. And it's like, this guy shouldn't have a gun, period.
No.
People are just, they get insane. So,
yeah.
So but you're going to school the whole time.
The whole time. Yep, the whole time. Yep, the start to me and my sisters, it was just life as usual when you left the house. We walked to school. We had good neighborhood relationships, barbecues. Literally your analogy was spot on. The Leave It to Beaver.
Yeah.
It was true.
It's funny because I remember sneaking out with my brother-in-law, because my dad was on like a week-long bender, and we would take the the distributor cap, right? We'd take the distributor cap and we'd pop it off so the car wouldn't start.
Oh, funny.
Because my mom was like, he keeps saying he's going to go to the bar, he's going to do this, he's going to do that. Go fix the car. And we'd go out and pop the hood, we'd creep out, in the middle of the night and take this thing because he's too drunk to figure. And he's like me, he knows nothing about mechanics. But we knew enough. I had learned enough that you can pop the distributor cap off in a way that he couldn't realize that what's happening. Like you can't see that it's off, but it's actually just a little pop, so it's not making a connection. So
Couldn't go anywhere.
Couldn't go anywhere. Yeah, but
Golly.
just trying to keep him from driving around and killing somebody.
Was it alcohol?
Oh yeah, for him it was. For my dad, it was alcohol.
Okay.
It was alcohol, and it was probably at some point it was a combination of alcohol and pills. But I don't, he'd had some surgery, so I knew he had painkillers.
Okay.
And I know it later in life it was definitely painkillers, but it was always alcohol too.
Okay.
But it's amazing seeing this person that when he's sober was amazing, funny, charismatic. Everyone loved him, had money, no problem. Let's go to the movie. Absolute. Like just this
Dad
amazing.
of the year.
Right. Absolutely.
Correct.
And everybody loved him.
Correct.
And that would be for 3 months after the rehab. And then you come home one day and you could feel it. Initially, you could feel it.
Yeah.
It might take a couple days before you started to realize, oh, he's drinking. But you felt it days. I felt it days before that.
It happened.
And my mom would feel it. We would all be like, something's wrong.
I'd feel it walking home from school.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Like signs. I don't know if yours, like if the garage door was up, it was all bad. Because you knew that he was just completely out of his mind. He was the type of guy that, everything was closed, locked, tight, right? The car doors were locked. They were clean. The house was locked. It was clean. Everything looked good from the outside. So if the garage door was up, it was like, oh, it's game time.
When I was 17, my father took his car, wrecked it, came home, said, give me your car keys. I gave him my car keys.
Drunk?
He took my car. Yeah. Well, what not drop, he wasn't falling down drunk.
Okay.
But I just wrecked my car.
But he wrecked it because he was...
Give me your car keys. I got to go to work. Give me your car keys. I give him the car keys, wrecked the car.
Your car?
We both had, he had a BMW, he had like a 635 CSI, which was like $65,000 vehicle, which is like $100 and something thousand
today,
vehicle.
yeah.
It was a BMW 2-door sports car. Wrecks that, give him my keys to my like 318, wrecks that. I thought 2 fucking BMWs in one day.
Wow.
Dude wrecked 2 BMWs in one day.
Was your mom the same as mine? Was she trying to figure out how do I keep the family
enabler,
right?
100% enabler. Right, like trying to keep everything. Don't let the neighbors know.
No, the neighbors were the worst.
The phone. State Farm would call and say, and he's so. Oh my gosh, he's so sick. He's this. Always covering. Covering.
Sure.
And then eventually, State Farm would put him into rehabs. One time, we had to go. The whole family had to go to. Like, what am I doing in rehab? Yeah. I had to go to NA meetings for, or Al-Anon. I think it's called Al-Anon meetings for. Like a month or something. We're going like 2-3 times a week. And I'm thinking, why am I in rehab right now? I don't drink. I'm 18 years old, 19. And they put him in. That's how much how good of a salesman he was, and a trainer. He was an an earner that you've got State Farm who's putting him into rehab every couple of years.
Yeah.
Like I don't think that would ever happen now.
No.
I think they fire you.
Yeah. Well, at best.
Yeah. So but his kind of sales team was always in like the top 10 out of 500 or 1,000 sales teams. He always won the trips. They always brought him in, flew him in to give the big speeches because he was that guy. Once again, you seem perfect.
Yeah.
But you've really got people in the base. You're really a serial
people
killer.
Chained up in the basement.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's the same. It's so wild. I didn't know any of this. This is it's the same story. So, I mean, mine was to a T almost, but it wasn't the alcohol, it was the drugs.
Right.
And so, but literally we'd walk into the gym together, and he, my dad was a bodybuilder. And so it was this odd, right?
It's like even worse, right?
Even worse. You're big, you're tan, you look good, you walk around, like you said, everybody gets to eat, you're father of the year.
You already look like the top 1% of society. Everywhere 100%. You go, anyway, people think you're amazing.
Correct.
Just looking at you.
Yes.
Oh, that's got to be even worse.
Yep. Your dad's BMW was my dad's Corvette.
Right.
Yeah, it was. It was literally the same. It was an interesting, right? And then in this whole life, you're trying to string together, but the entire time going and figuring out life on your own. Because here you have this monster, that's supposed to be your dad. It's
Yeah.
supposed to care. But he'd show up at Pop Warner and he'd be in the stands. And like a good Saturday was everybody went home. A bad Saturday was he took the Rolex off and came out of the stands and just started beating up the other coach. I mean, he literally just unhinged.
Have you heard me tell that story? As I was 15 years old, I stopped. I stopped. I was the top league for soccer. It's called Black Watch.
Okay.
Loved soccer, great at it.
Okay.
And eventually, just when it came time to sign up again,
Yeah.
when I was 16, I told my mom I don't want to sign up. Well, I just don't want to sign up. So, like, she didn't understand. She's like, I don't understand. Then when she asked my dad,
because you were good and you loved it.
yeah, like, I don't understand. You're good. You love
Right.
this. This is great. This is your friend. This is where your friends go. And it goes to my father to ask him, and he said, if you don't want to go, you don't have to go. You don't have to go. And she's like, okay. Like, she was just completely confused. But the truth is, I was tired of my father showing up at the games. Not a lot, 3 or 4 times a year, showing up drunk in the stands,
Scene.
yell, Matthew, get over there, get out. And it's like the scene of, no, Dad, here's my area.
Right.
I know
This is
you
how the
think I
game
should
works.
be running all around chasing the ball for your entertainment.
This is how the game works,
But
my
my
guy.
coach said, yeah, and I mean, it was just humiliating
Yeah.
that as a result of that, I don't want to go anymore. Well, I don't want to give him the opportunity to show up.
Correct.
But so just like your thing.
Same story, brother.
Coming down from, this is weird.
Same story. And it was we had one neighbor who was like my mom's go-to. I don't know if you had one. Everybody else was just like quiet.
She had 1 or 2 friends in the neighborhood.
There you go.
Women.
Correct. That you could call and be like, hey, John, this is what's just a heads up. And he'd kind of come over sometimes and, like check on the fridge or,
Right.
be that, oh, you have a hornet's nest outside. I heard I had to knock it down. That type of guy but other than that, quiet.
Yeah.
And my mom was raised that way, right? You just swept it. I think they probably taught it on Nick at Night or something. You didn't talk about it. The ideas of today, like the self-help, and a lot of it's social media, which, you're contributing to, the idea of self-improvement, self-actualization, self-understanding. They didn't have that back 30, 40 years ago.
No. Listen, my father was kind of like diagnosed as an alcoholic in the 60s when he kept not being able to stop drinking.
Yeah.
And he and my mother went to a doctor and said, look, I'm having an issue.
Right.
And explained it to him. This is how the absolute lack of knowledge in that period of time was as far as addiction. We've got a guy who's making amazing money. He works for a great company. But my parents, and when you're younger, you can kind of handle it better.
Yeah.
So they're in their 20s. They've got at that point, they had a couple kids. And they're saying, I think they're probably in their 30s. And they go to the doctor because my father, it's like, hey, when he drinks, he can't stop.
Yeah.
And the doctor very matter-of-factly says, well, he's an alcoholic. My dad almost gets into a fist fight with him. Because back then, if you were an alcoholic, you were a bum.
Oh.
Only bums were alcoholics. So if you walk by
Got
a
it.
bum, it's guy's an alcoholic. He's a drunk. He's a loser. He's this.
Yeah.
And he was furious. They were furious because I have a good job.
I'm a family man.
Right. I have a family. I have
My
a good
wife's here
job.
with
I
me.
make good money. What the fuck?
drove
What are you
in
talking
here.
about? And he's like, well, you're just a functional alcoholic. The fuck are you? I mean, it just gets in his face. My mom's
Yeah.
I'm in between them. Like, what are you doing? He's like, your father's about to get into a fist fight in the little doctor room. But that's how absurd
Yes.
the idea
Yes.
that could happen was back then.
Correct. Totally absurd. Yeah, the first time I knew what it was, the fanny packs were always we go to Disneyland and he'd take it everywhere. Took it everywhere. And it was always like, it was a bodybuilder thing back then.
Oh, okay.
They wore it. It was normal, in the gym, this, that, and the other, but that's where he kept all of his stuff. And so I remember taking it. I was probably 8th grade and I walked it down to the local drugstore. Yeah, I turned it in and I just said, hey.
What is this?
Yeah, you let me know what this is. Yeah, and the gal was like, yeah. Leave your information here, and I'll come and I'll let you know.
What was that beating like?
I didn't get to the beating, brother. The cops beat me home.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah. That beating came to my mom when he came back around. Very physical, with mom, and so it was always at the moment I could get in front of them or in between the two of them, I would all the time. But yeah, that's when I first realized, the cops go, hey, so you turned this in and, they have the whole, here I am like, yeah, just let me know, And that was the first time, there they were in the driveway, with our beautiful French doors and, our Rottweiler, the whole thing.
Right.
That was the first time the neighborhood was like, what in the world? And then, you got a monster here, But he sat in this recliner when he'd get so high. He sat in that recliner. And when he was gone for those few days after they took him, like I sat in that recliner. That was my oh, yeah, I got you.
So how long do you stay in the house? Like, do you graduate high school? Do you?
Yeah.
Okay.
My mom fought that good fight for the better part of 2 decades.
Did he pass away, or did she?
He's dead now.
Okay. Or did they stay?
No,
they stay married.
They didn't stay married. She finally left after about 20 years.
Okay.
So that was her. Enough is enough. Finally got to that point. Thank God.
Yeah, my mom went down with the ship.
No kidding.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like what I used to say, she was the worst case of Stockholm syndrome I'd ever seen in my life.
Okay. And she never drank.
No. Well, no, she would have like a glass of wine.
Sure, but not. Yeah.
Didn't drink, didn't smoke, didn't like to take medication, didn't nothing. My dad was, if it said give me one, he was give 4. Me 2. I'm a big man. I can handle more than that. It's like some of the things he said now, looking back on it, I think this guy's such a jackass. Like at the time I was like, Dad, well, Dad said give him 2. And my mom was give him 1. Right. But looking back on it, I just think, the fuck is going on? Mm-hmm. So you graduate high. Like, are you trying to get out of the house as quick as possible?
No, because I wanted to make sure my mom was okay. My sisters were okay.
Okay. I see. I hear that. I see.
Yeah. We had a basement house. And so my sisters would stay in that basement room. And so whenever I could feel, you start to feel it bubble up. You remember those days?
Yeah.
Like, okay, is it going to be a good night, bad night? And so I would go down in the basement. They had these trundle beds. And they'd sleep in, we'd put all the trundle beds together. So it was like 4 beds in a row. And I'd sleep in that far corner of that trundle so that I could see, my line of sight was that when he walked through the door. Mm-hmm. And so that it just gave me enough visibility to go, okay, if something pops off, I'd be the first one to see it. And then it was never a case of me leaving or wanting to leave. It was me trying to figure out how can I best insert myself into this problem, if you will. He wanted to be, I'm not sure about yours, but he wanted to be like Dad of the Year. He wanted to be proud, and I was his only son. And so it was like, let me show you how we do things. Let me show you around here. And, now looking back, like you said, he was a jackass. I would go with my dad, when payphones and beepers existed. And, that was the good days where he'd go and he'd collect. You'd go to a certain store or go to a certain payphone, and all of a sudden, here I am in the front seat, and people would just open up my door, and it was, cash and envelopes and duffel bags and things and, all the accoutrements, if you will, from place to place. And I'm, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old, just growing up with this. And so it's funny that you look back now and people go, oh my gosh, you've got every reason to be on Jerry Springer tomorrow.
Right. Like your dad's bringing you with him on collections. Like that couldn't possibly go wrong.
Correct. No. And I'm in the front seat, right? Yeah. Like, why wouldn't you be? But it was everything. The 357 was here and the bat was there, and it was, the toys were here and the taser was there. I mean, it was.
At what point, how old are you before you kind of realize, like, this isn't normal behavior?
It was about 15.
It was like my buddy Timmy down 2 blocks over. His dad works for an insurance company.
His dad has a briefcase that we can open.
He doesn't have a fanny pack. I've never seen him with a fanny pack.
It was about 15, but again, I realized I tried to realize how do I put myself in that situation. So it started out with nightclubs, and so my dad was a big guy.
Have you ever wondered what happened to the legendary Chuck Norris? I recently saw a video he made and I was shocked. He's in his 80s and still kicking butt and working out and staying active. What's even more shocking is he's stronger, can work out longer, and even has plenty of energy left over for his grandkids. He did this by just making one change. He says he still feels like he's in his 50s. His wife even started doing this one thing, and she's never felt better. She says she feels 10 years younger. Her body looks leaner, and she has energy all day. Chuck made a special video that explains everything. Make sure you watch it by going to chuckdefense.com/Matt or by clicking on the link below this video. It'll change the way you think about your health. Once again, that's chuckdefense.com/Matt. Or click on the link in the description box below to watch the video now. You won't believe how simple it is. Just remember, the legendary Chuck Norris is a whopping 85 years old, and he has more energy than me. He discovered he could create dramatic changes to his health simply by focusing on 3 things that sabotage our body as we age. Watch his method by clicking on the link in the description box below, or go to chuckdefense.com/Matt.
I was a big guy, we lifted, and then he had a buddy that ran a nightclub. And so here you are at 15, and he was like, you want to work the door? Okay. I knew if I worked the door, that I'd have visibility on him. Mm-hmm. And then I'd be able to just almost look into the future and go, is this going to be a good night or a bad night? Right? But I knew if I worked the door and I had visibility on him, I knew that my mom and my sisters would be all right. Mm-hmm. It's totally crazy when you say it out loud now, but when you're that young, it makes a boatload of sense. I'll give you one step further with the door. Everybody at the door gives you the cover. And so the guy that owned the bar was like, hey, the people that don't come in are the guys that don't have this blue card. Okay, I don't know what that means, but whatever. It was one of the, a friendly club, if you will. Only people that are allowed in, get in. Okay, well, a lot of guys wanted to get in, and so they would pay a lot of money to get that card. So then I go, well, come back, give me a call, we'll figure it out. And it became my hustle. $200 later, I go talk to the owner. This is the guy that wants in. I go, okay, write down his information on his driver's license and bring it to me. So I'd bring it to him, and then 2 or 3 weeks later, they go, yeah, if he comes back around, he can come in. And it was $200 to me, and $200 to me.
So he gets a phone call, hey, show up Tuesday night.
Right, exactly.
I gotcha.
Right, so-and-so's good. So-and-so's, they're okay. And so here I am, making $1,000 a week in cash, running the door.
What year is this?
Oh, golly. This is late 90s.
Okay. Yeah, so $50-something thousand a year is a lot of money.
That's a ton of money.
It's like making $150,000 a year now.
A ton of money.
And you're a kid living at home.
Correct.
Yeah.
And it's right before you get your driver's license, so all you're thinking about is the vehicle. And that money allowed me to go get the truck I wanted, this big black lifted Dodge Ram, on 36-inch wheels and loud as hell, and so then it became this stereotype. This is who my dad was, he was a known individual, relatively violent. I pulled up, it started to kind of coalesce together. It was, if I can live in this world but not become him, then I can kind of sort of protect, what goes on at home.
Do you go to college? Do you go on to college?
Yeah, for sure.
And your father wanted you to go to college? Or
he wanted me to do what he wanted to do.
Right.
What he was doing. Yeah. I knew that, so when the straw finally broke for him, my mom wanted to leave, and she did. It got ugly like it always does. It turns into, financial, and what do you owe me, and what am I going to pay? And then you play the game of I don't make any money, and, well, if you don't make any money, how do you afford the house? This whole thing unravels just nasty, right? It's just horrific. And he was sitting in the room, and that's when he opens up his arms, and he's like, this is the reason that we're here. Mm-hmm. He explained, he walked me through that. So I knew I didn't want to go down that path. And so for me, it was never a choice of, I didn't drink because, I didn't do drugs because, I didn't fill in the blank. I saw what it brought, the pain it brought to my family. So I had the perfect example of what not to do.
Right.
So I tried to do the right things. For me, it was, all right, I knew that I had the ability to sell. I knew I had the ability to, earn and work, but I had to do it the right way. And so I was definitely going to go to college.
So I have a quick question. Have you ever done drugs?
Never.
You ever drank?
Never.
I've never drank.
Serious?
Never had to drink alcohol. I've never smoked a cigarette.
Serious?
I've never smoked pot.
Same.
I've never done. The only thing I've ever had.
No, right hand to God, never.
The only thing I've ever done was when I was about halfway through college. I got a prescription for Xanax.
Okay.
Went to the doctor, and the reason I did that was that I was taking 15 hours of courses.
Okay.
That's like we're working a 50-hour-a-week job. Yeah. I'm studying. I'm not a good student. I have dyslexia. I'm busting my ass. I mean, granted, I got a degree in fine art, so it wasn't that.
You crushed it.
Wasn't
really
that difficult.
And you're now using the degree in fine arts.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what got me into prison.
Well done.
So
the red wall, Colby.
Absolutely, the wall.
Jeez.
So, but I just, I was so stressed out. I remember one time I drove right through I was just zoning out, and I drove right through a red light, and I was having a hard time I started having panic attacks. Oh. And so I went to my parents, and I was like, listen, I don't know what just happened. And I explained the whole thing, and my dad's like, you had a panic attack. the hell's wrong with this?
No big deal.
Like, I don't know what a fucking panic attack is. There's no internet. There's no.
It's so
we got
true.
We got three
Right.
channels.
And I had to turn them.
Right.
Right.
Right. I'm watching Hogan's Heroes.
Okay.
You know,
Green Acres.
Cheers. Remember Cheers?
I love Cheers.
Yeah. And what was the other one? Was Friends?
Oh, Friends.
These shows are still on. We're still basically on.
True.
So anyway,
Just a different version of themselves.
he said, go to Dr. Mills. He'll cut. I had a doctor. This was how doctors were back then.
Oh,
as soon as
man.
you walked in the door and you said, so he'd pull out his
White pad.
the pad
Yep.
as you're talking. He's
Correct.
like, you need a prescription for Xanax. And he start writing. It's like, you've talked to me for all of 3 fucking minutes. Like, these guys are ready for it. Back then, you could say, my fucking shoulder's killing me. And my buddy has the same problem. And he said he needs oxycodone.
Oh, say less.
And he'd be like, oh, yeah, of course. You know, I'm going to start you on this. And
If you need more, holler.
right. That's how it was back then, right?
Yeah,
Like, now you could go in bleeding out of your eyes. They won't give you anything. But that's, he sent me there. I got a prescription for Xanax. I probably was taking, 1 or 2 a week.
Okay.
I was even break them in half because if I took them, I wanted to go to sleep. I got really sleepy. So that is the only thing I've ever taken. Although I did get RDAT because I said I was addicted to opiates. That was a lie. And I feel bad about that in case my judge is watching. But for God's sakes.
You're remorseful, though.
I feel bad.
Yeah.
So that's it. That I've never drank.
No, never.
And I would date. You ever have you meet buddies and stuff, and you tell them like, you want to there? No, I don't drink. And then you say, no, I don't drink. And then 3 months later, one day you'd be out somewhere, and they'd go, you really fucking don't drink.
You really don't.
Like I thought you were full.
I thought it was a thing.
It's been 3 fucking
Correct.
months. You really,
really
and then,
don't.
Yeah. And then I have friends who would be like, bro, he's never drank.
Correct.
Never. Known this guy since he was 15.
Never.
Yeah.
Never.
I can't even fathom it.
I don't even have a desire to do it.
No, I have no desire, and actually, I have no patience with people that drink, which is very weird because
While they're drinking, or when they get to the point where you know that they shouldn't be.
as soon as I get to that point where
Correct.
I tell you right now, this is, by the way, this is going to be horrible because so many people in the comment section are going to be like, "Yo, bro, you're supposed to be talking about this dude's story. Stop telling stories, Scott."
You think so?
People they do it. There's all about 4 guys that tell me this all the time, but fuck them, I can do without them. So, and you'll understand. So, but this is a good example.
Okay.
I went to. It wasn't Miami. It was close to Miami. Whatever, one of those little towns down there.
Okay.
Like Palm Beach or something. I forget. So I'm down there. Went down there to talk with someone about a business meeting. We all go out with his investors. They're drinking. My buddy's drinking. These other guys are drinking. My wife is there. This guy's asking me questions about this project that we're trying to put together, which never got put together. But I'm like, yeah, look, here's how it works. And he drinks like, yeah, what about such and such? And I start to get to the point, what about?
Oh.
They start interrupting you. I can't fucking stand to be interrupted. Although I interrupt everyone. That's my problem. So
He apologizes in the
I
comment
feel bad.
sections.
So this guy, he asked me a question. I start to answer it. Like, none of these are simple. Then
Yes.
hey, what about?
Yes.
Interrupts me. And then I finally looked at him. I said, hey, bro. I said, if you want to talk about this, we can talk about this. I said, but you keep it. Like, I'm now, my wife's there. She's looking at me like, and I don't get mad. But she can tell. She's like, oh, I could tell you were getting fucking irritated. And I was like, I'm trying to answer your question. You keep interrupting. He's like, oh, I'm sorry, bro. I'm sorry. Now my buddy's kind of looking at me like, are you getting upset? But he's drinking too. And then I start to explain again. And he goes, well, how come such and such? He interrupts me again. I said, okay, listen, bro. I said, we're going to get going. I said, excuse me. The waitress, I go, excuse me. And she comes over. I said, can I get the check for just this meal and this meal? I said, as quickly as possible. And she's like, yeah, and my buddy's like, yo, bro, you're leaving? I said, yeah, I'm done. He was like, oh, I'm sorry. No, I get it. I understand. No, we're done. But I mean, I was done.
I love it.
And I mean, and my wife's putting stuff up. She's like, no, I could tell this is about to go really bad.
Yeah.
And she comes over. She goes, I'm sorry, man. I said, no, I understand. And I'm this, I get the bill, boom, boom, boom. And, oh, I got it. No, I got it. And we grab our stuff and we leave.
Out.
I mean, I'm just done. We're not talking anymore. You've interrupted me over and over again. This was the dumbest fucking thing to come to a place and start drinking while we're trying to pitch a story so that this jackass can lend us money to start a business, and he's a fucking drunk. You're drinking. Like, I don't know who fucking does business like this.
Yeah, not me.
No. And I left, and I remember my wife, she's like, you were pissed. She's like, what?
I love it.
Never seen you. And I don't know why I think it upset me
You know
so
why,
much.
though?
But I do, because of the alcohol.
Correct.
If it had been I'm super calm in any other situation, but when you're getting drunk, you're interrupting, you're being a jackass, and I'm supposed to placate you.
Correct.
Because you've decided to drink.
Yeah.
I fucking hate that shit.
Yeah, that drives me nuts.
I
have no tolerance for it.
Yeah.
But it goes back to that's why. You know why.
Yeah. Well, I'm not that sharp. Listen, I didn't figure out a lot of this till I went to prison. Like half my mental problems I did not realize till I wrote a memoir in prison and was reading books about how to write memoirs. And you're reading stuff and you're like, well, if I had to pinpoint something,
correct.
And you start thinking about it, and then you start thinking about what happened specifically, and then you're sitting in your cell crying, and it's like, the fuck is going on? What is happening here? Why is it me thinking about this thing that I haven't thought about in 30 years? Or, well, at that point, 20 years. I haven't thought about this in 20 or 25 or 30 years. And now just thinking about it has me in fucking tears. Like, there's probably a mental issue there.
Maybe. But that's good stuff. That's self-understanding.
That's horrible, bro. I like to bear. I would prefer to be able to bury it.
No, we're not burying anything. No.
Bury it down deep until it turns to cancer.
Can't do it. We got to save the world. Got to save the world, man.
Oh, my gosh.
How many of them have gone this path, though? Almost everybody I talk to. Sitting behind bars. They all can pinpoint 10, 11, 12, 13, 14.
I think they could, but I think they don't, because I think that they are manly men that live in a manly man world of the streets, and you don't talk about it and you don't think about it. You bury it, and what you do is you take drugs and alcohol
to numb the pain.
Yeah, you become just this belligerent prick that wants to live off of society because they owe you something.
Right. You tattoo your city on your head.
Right.
Right.
People start calling you 21.
Right.
Why do they call you 21? Because there are 21 bodies on my case. That's why. I try to get people to call me Chainsaw.
Okay.
Nobody would do it.
Nobody?
They do now.
They do now in the comments. People are like,
it.
"Yo, Chainsaw, what's up?"
Love that.
People are like, yeah, guys were like, you're not dangerous. Chainsaw's a dangerous guy.
Chainsaw is a dangerous guy.
You're like, you're paper cut.
We'll call him Thumbtack. Paper cut. That's a good one. I'll be in the comment section, Colby.
So what happened? So Dad, you're
Mom
at the
and Dad
bar.
leave.
I'm so sorry about interrupting, but this is so shocking how fucking similar.
It's so similar.
So you do go to college.
Yeah. Yeah.
Your parents are divorcing. You go to college.
Parents are divorcing, and Mom is finally. We go through the whole just the horrible stuff, right? Like you lose the house because Dad's a jerk, and we're living in the minivan and house hopping and. Going from friends at the church's houses, as my mom's going to school to become a teacher, and she's like delivering pizzas at night prior to.
My mother went back to school to get her degree in education. Go ahead.
Wow. There you go.
And they never got divorced. But while he's going through this, she starts going, what do you want to go back to school for? And she's thinking, motherfucker, because this is going to end soon. It never does. But there were many times we moved out, slept on people's couches, crawled out. The whole family crawled out the back window as my dad's screaming and throwing things and trashing the house and yelling. We all go back to my brother's back bedroom, climb out the window, sneak around, get in the car, leave, and go have to stay for a week at somebody's house.
Been there.
Sound?
Been there. Oh yeah. Yeah. We had a 2-story house, and I'd be at the top of that 2 stories, right? And just, you'd be looking over metal rails when they were a thing like in the 80s and 90s, right? And you could see into their bedroom. They had these 2 doors, and you just hang out there perched, like, what's going on? Is it going to pop off? And then if it did, he'd come out and would just, the first thing, like he would destroy the Halloween ornaments, and the little ghost at the front door is shattered. And next thing you know, it's like the palm tree plant that was there. And then sure enough, just like you said, then it was just like, all right, everybody gather their things and we're going to go to, Aunt Susie's house or, Grandma's house or, down the stairs you'd go into the minivan. And Then of course, like the incessant calling would begin when he became sober. I'm super sorry. It'll never happen again. It was because, I was watching Hogan's Heroes and it really got me fired. No. But yeah, I'm going to let everybody go in the basement. I promise you.
Oh my God.
And then we'd all go back home, and then it was you and I, Dad of the Year, right? He was like, we're going to go to the gym, and we're going to talk about protein, and then we're going to hit 7-Eleven and pick up some money, and then we're going to get Slurpees, then we're going to go to church, and then we're going to beat people up for some more money, and then we're going to come home, we're going to make rotisserie chicken and grab some pizza, and then we're going to leave at like midnight with a bat and go pick up some more money and come back. And
the mental battle that had to be going through, not only in your head, but even your dad's. Like when they sober up and they realize, what did I do last night? And then you have to somehow or another justify it to yourself, and it's over and over.
They concoct a story.
Yeah.
Why they did it.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Over and over and over and over. But I don't know about you, but all of that, even to this day, is what makes me great, self-aware.
I think I'm amazing.
I know. Thank you. We're both amazing.
I'm telling you. Not
geez.
Everyone else does.
That's okay. But think about it, right? Like your idea of probably showing up is probably similar to mine. Like I have to be here. If I said I'm going to do something, I'm going to do something.
Yeah.
You'll never have to tell me that I did a worse job than I think I did.
That's funny. Super hard on myself.
Yep.
I always want to be. My dad's big thing was being on time is being 15 minutes early.
Oh, golly. If you're late, I've got a problem. If you're late, I can't stand it. Yeah. I can't stand it.
Oh, yeah. Traffic. You account for traffic. You knew there were. Are you an idiot? Did
you don't
not
use
know
GPS?
there was going to be traffic?
You've never seen Google? You've never been here before?
Even if there's not. You didn't know there was going to be traffic?
Hello?
What's the worst
You
that
don't
happens?
plan?
You show up 30 minutes early.
So what?
Yeah.
Get to know people.
Yeah.
Hang out. Same story, man. Yes. So I look at some of those things, and this, you want to know one that sticks with me forever? Here I am in the front seat. We're doing collections, right? Like running around Boston turnpikes like psychopaths. We get off the turnpike and we're turning right, and this car's coming like they always are. His car's coming this direction. They have their blinker on. They're going to turn past us. And he looks at me, one of those sober moments, and he's like, "The guy with his blinker on, you can never trust those people."
Why?
Right. He was and so the story was, here you are, you're 8. You're like, I'm just trying to eat my Hostess, bro. Like, I don't even know what's going on right now.
What that means.
Right? I don't even have a seatbelt on. His story as you got older was, if you pull out in front of this guy, your excuse is going to be he had his blinker on. You can't trust him to know what he's doing. He's an idiot. And he would have these euphemisms all day long. And now that I look back and I have kids of my own, I laugh. One of the funniest ones, I tell it to my kids. My wife's like, please stop saying that. I say, and we have one boy, and I say to him, my dad used to tell me, if she had a different face and a different body, she could be attractive.
Oh my God. It's horrible.
Bro, you're like 9 years old, right? Like, and he has all of these like one-liners, one at a time, and now they all start to come out. And you're like, geez, Louise. At some points, like you said, funny, charismatic, sales 101, like good father, like wanted to tell you these stories, but was just a complete disaster and couldn't get out of his own way.
Yeah. Yeah. I was going to say, my dad did the whole, you're always going to make money. You're a salesman. He's like, the secret to sales is sincerity. If you can fake that, you got it made. He goes, and you got that in spades. And I'm like,
okay.
I have no fucking idea what you're saying.
Yeah, I
right
love
now.
spades.
Yeah, I'm sitting there like, I don't know what sincerity means.
Sincerity.
Mine
was with the money thing. It's so funny. Mine was this. All right, so Trav, you're gonna grow up and you're gonna make a ton of money, and you're gonna marry this beautiful girl, and she's gonna get this great little minivan, and your neighbor's gonna hate you. You're gonna grow up, you're gonna make no money, you're gonna be a drug addict and a degenerate, and you're gonna marry this ugly girl, and your neighbor's gonna hate you. So just be the first guy.
Good, yeah. Good times.
Can I get out of the car now?
Yeah.
Who's on first? But literally, you start to run through all these things. Now, I giggle about them because you're older and you can look back and you can remove yourself from the psychosis of what was childhood and go, oh, I think what you meant to say in your drug-induced verbiage was, oh, you were looking out for me, I do believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was your version of a life lesson.
Oh, totally, right? all of them. But yeah, it was interesting. So that was the story. That was like the foundation. But I can't tell you how much it's helped me from the beginning.
That was the foundation.
That was the foundation, bro. The foundation was exciting. But yeah, mom got away from him. Thank God. You know, she never fell into any of the lifestyle, if you will. She wanted to make sure the kids were good. And that was her focus. So she delivered pizzas and we couch hopped until she saved up enough money and we got an apartment, 2-bedroom, 4 kids. And that was like her, like, I've made it moment. Like, ooh, here we go. Yeah. So I tried to take the path less traveled. Went to college, started college, and then actually went on a mission for my church.
Oh, okay. So you started college?
Correct.
Or you completed college?
No, you just start and then you go on the mission for 2 years. And then you come back and complete college.
Well,
you go on a mission from 19 to 21.
Oh, wait. This is you're Mormon.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Like you have to go on this
church mission.
Church mission. So you go on and you're basically knocking on doors.
Knocking on doors. Yep. Knocking on doors 101. But it's so funny. You look at this, you have 400 boys from 19 to 21 on a mission in an area, if you will. And all of the things that were like negative about the upbringing were why it was good. So when you'd show up and you'd knock on a door and I'd be like, oh, there's abuse going on here. Like, bro, I could smell it from the gate, from the beginning. And so when you start to just meet people, it was like you'd most of the time you come across people in dire situations,
right? Tough
spots, rock bottom, we call it, right? Whatever that means in today's world.
So you're able to zone in and say, I know there's issues here.
100%.
I know you need this.
100%. I'm like, I've been here.
Yeah.
And so what was wild was like, for me, that mission experience was healing for me because I was able to go and show people you can be broken, but you're still going to be all right.
Right.
And that was interesting to be able to use all of the stories because you show up in a white shirt and tie.
Yeah, yeah.
You're 19, you're clean cut, you're typically good looking, typically, small areas.
What year is this?
This is 99 to 01.
Yeah, so people that's still when they knocked on the door, not everybody really knows why you're there.
Correct. Yeah, we still had cords on the phone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You open the door what's like, now
huh?
If I open the door, I'd be like,
oh,
Mormons.
Yeah, well, you see them from your Ring camera. From like
you don't even go outside.
You don't even go. No. Yeah. You do we have a little dog bark on the Ring camera, Yeah, so it was 2 years of just, opportunity to tell people like my story that I didn't know I was telling, right? Because here you are and you sit down with people and you look perfect, childhood, right? Just like yours and mine. And then they'd go, yeah, but I just don't know. Like, my dad does drugs. And you'd be like, mine too. And then all of a sudden the floodgates would open. They'd be like, what? Tell me more. But you're here because you're perfect. No. Check it out, bro. No, we're here because we're broken. We're here because we're a mess. And that's what I would tell people, unbeknownst to me. At this time you didn't have any training. It was just like, go knock doors, go figure it out, and tell people the story. Okay, sounds like a plan. And for me, it was 2 years to get away and actually walk through the trauma that was my entire childhood. And so you'd get these kids from broken homes. You get these parents that couldn't figure it out. And here you are, you're like a therapist at 19 sitting on people's couches like, tell me why you keep going back to the bar, Matt. Right. You got the same result on Wednesday, right? It was so interesting. They're like, how do you know this? Well, I grew up with this for the last 20 years.
And you're what, 20? How old are
19
you?
To
19
21.
to 20?
Yeah.
21, okay.
Yeah.
So when you leave there and you go back to college, you finish college?
Finance, yep, Finance 101. It was.
Did you marry the pretty girl?
Yes. Yes, I did marry the pretty girl, married way above me. Good gracious, way above me. I didn't even have anything at that time. I just was a good salesman.
Just convinced her.
Oh, golly.
So this is the right call. This is the right move for you.
Yeah.
Sign here.
Yeah, you want to know? It's a funny story. I call Melissa my wife, and so I call her, her nickname is June. It's June Cleaver.
All right.
True story. I'm like, okay, June, she's perfect. She fits in that perfect little mold. We couldn't be, further opposites. Beauty and the Beast.
It's the dirtiest thing ever said on TV. Was Ward, you were a little hard on the beaver last night, weren't you? If you've ever watched Leave It to Beaver, you know it makes complete sense.
I hope you got that, Colby.
That was the wife saying that? In the
Yeah,
show?
yeah. Ward, Ward is the husband.
Yeah.
Ward, you were a little hard on the beaver last night, weren't you? Dirtiest thing ever said on TV.
It's a good one. It's a good one. But yes. Yeah. Yeah. So go, finish college. And for me, it was continuing to quote unquote do, whatever he didn't do the right thing, whatever that is, right? As you're a kid trying to figure that out. But yeah, all the good stuff. So I got into the world of high stakes finance, hedge funds, money, all the fun stuff, investments. And for me, it was a numbers game. Growing up with him, I didn't realize, all of these things were math. And it was just, he immersed me in it, from a young age. You'd get in our garage, we had money counters.
Right.
Like that was normal, right? Didn't everybody? We had the big 200-pound coin one and it would go quarters, nickels, dimes, and pennies into the old cloth bags.
Yeah.
You tie them up. Of course, everybody has those.
So I don't know why. So was it did you work for one of the boiler room style things where you're just cold calling, trying to get investors to?
Got it.
Okay, kind of the boiler room, yeah. Jordan Belfort, Wolf of Wall Street, the whole thing.
Yeah.
That sucks.
Yes.
It's got to be horrible.
But that's how you cut your teeth, though. It's like the modern day, door knocking guys,
right?
The solar or the windows or all the guys that come around.
I do love that scene of him when he goes to the penny stock place in the movie, and he picks up the phone. He's like, "So you're telling me if I sell this much?" And the guy's like, "Yeah, absolutely." And he's like, he picks up the phone and rambles through it. And the guy buys $6,000 worth or something. And he's like, "Oh, okay," or whatever. And it's just everybody's like, oh,
you can hear a pin drop.
How did you do that?
Yep.
That's a great call.
That's how you cut your teeth, though, in the industry.
Yeah.
Yeah, my dad had you'll love this story. My dad had a commercial space, and there's TVs everywhere, old school TVs, the big tubes that you have to hang up and screw into the wall and everything. Disco balls hanging from the ceiling. What in the world? This is random. Mm-hmm. So I would always just go into the front. There was 2 offices in the front. He had this secretary named Debbie. She was bigger than your table. And that was always his thing. Oh yeah, you got to have just an obese secretary. That way you never want to bang her.
It's just a headache. It's
a headache. What? No, you're 10. Oh yeah, you never want to bang your secretary, dude. Okay, just make sure she's just massive. Literally, okay, 4th grade, moving on. And so you eventually grow up, make your way into the back, and you're like, what in the world is going on here? It's 40 black girls back there. They're coming through the roll-up door, getting dropped off from the bus stop and picked up in the van. And this is how long ago it was. They were selling porn tapes over the phone. And so he created this company called Professional Management Solutions. And so he'd sell you a baker's dozen, back in the day when you had a VHS and a DVD and all that fun stuff. But the kick was, as soon as you picked up the phone, it was, "Hey, Matt, this is Kimmy with PMS." And that's what would happen.
Right.
And then I got you. And then it turned into a conversation. I was like, that's the type of stuff. He had that stuff. I mean, more of those types of industries and wacky ideas than you could shake a stick at. And it was just, you grew up in it. And I'm like, okay, here we are. We're just sales 101, I guess. That's what we're learning here, sort of.
I was going to say, we used to have the VCR, one of the first VCRs where you push the button and it went, and
yes.
You loaded it from the...
Yes, and shut it down. Yeah. Yep. And if you didn't get it right, it would pop back up and then you'd argue with it.
I would meet these guys, and it's funny, I met a mobster I was locked up with, and he must have had 50 or 100 women in a room, and they were all doing this is back with phone sex.
Yeah.
They did phone sex.
Oh.
Yeah.
That was
it. So it's funny. It's funny. And he was a mobster. He would tell you that running a pump and dump scheme was perfectly legal. He went to fucking trial on that.
Really?
Of course we pumped and dumped. Of course, why wouldn't we pull out the money at the top of the market?
That's what everybody does.
You know, right? Well, and it's great, but you got to do 20 years.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Yeah.
But he went to trial and argued it.
Well, it's curious.
This is a normal strategy. This is the way it's
This is
done.
what Goldman is doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had tons of those, man. Oh, I can give you stories after stories. He had this diamond saw blades, you know, back in the day where they'd call contractors and they'd give them the saw for free if they bought like a dozen saw blades with it. And then he had a whole other crew that would go out
stealing,
throwing them in the river. Yeah,
throwing them in the river.
Yeah, so you get them delivered, and then all of a sudden you go to your truck on Monday morning and your blades are gone. They're stolen. They tossed in the river. So now you got to call, and you got to reorder.
Okay.
It was a scheme, start to finish. I can give you these all day long. It was just one after the other, after the other, after the other. It was just like, hey man, if you just put your energy into
something legit, like
something like
you could probably
man,
keep some of this money.
you'd probably crush it. Probably crush it. You'd probably do really, really well. But yeah, no, it was always left, right, and center. So yeah, I came back, cut my teeth on the financial services industry, and then wanted to start my own gig. And my own gig was 2007. So I wanted to hang my own shingle, raise my own money, build my own fund, you know, do all of that that everybody dreams of. And it was good. You know, we raised a lot of money, a lot back in 2007, over 100 million. And
sorry. In 2007, it was a great time to be investing, right?
Great time to be investing.
How did that perform? How was that performance in 2008?
Through the roof. Rocket ship, baby. Yeah, it was interesting times, that's for sure. Yeah, I set up a fund.
I can hear you
registered.
On the phone. What? It's not like of course, we're gonna put it into mortgage-backed securities.
Of course, we're gonna
what,
bundle these.
Yeah. What you can't possibly think that the entire market's gonna collapse? That's crazy.
The housing industry's never gone to zero.
Yeah.
June. This is the safest thing you're looking at. Yeah, no, we did well on the fund. So knock on wood for that. I didn't have any issues raising. I didn't have any issues deploying capital or creating an investment. It was good.
Yeah, that's not what I'm concerned about.
No. That always comes back around. Yeah, so I got 2007, Q4 to 2008, Q3. We raised a significant amount of money. Shut that fund down when the world went to hell in a handbasket or was about to return the investor dollars and then deployed into a different strategy. State of Arizona came and said, hey, buddy, so we should have had those regulation dollars. We should have had the taxes that you should have paid to the federal government. We should have, any of the dollars you raised in our state, you should have been registered with us. And anything over $99,000 is a felony. Securities fraud.
Anything over how much?
$99,000.
Oh, I thought you said $99. What the fuck are you talking about?
That'd be tough for the dollar store people. Yeah, $99,000, and I had 66 of them.
You open up the company.
Yep.
Do you hire people?
Yeah.
Hire several guys?
Lots of guys.
Okay.
Lots of guys.
And you guys are
legal counsel.
You're calling. You have a lawyer that sets everything
sure.
up. Everything's registered. Mm-hmm. You're registered. You have all your licenses.
Register with the SEC, Securities and Exchange Commission.
You do everything except for go to the state because you just have no idea.
Correct.
Okay.
And in today's world, it doesn't even exist any longer. Guys like, Cardone who are raising money on Instagram. So those securities laws are so far antiquated now that you can now send people peer-to-peer lending, and the internet has completely transformed the way that securities are looked at. But the simplest way I explain it to folks is like the medical marijuana craze. I call it goofiness. You can go to a particular state like Oregon. You and I could smoke all the weed that we never wanted to smoke. Mm-hmm. We couldn't put it in the back of a U-Haul and drive it to California.
The moment you do,
federal, it's gone. You're done.
So, how much money did you raise?
Millions.
In
that state,
right?
Over 3 million.
Okay.
So anything over 99,000 in that state to the tune of just over 3 million.
Yeah.
Class 4 felony.
So you've closed it out, given everybody their money back. Did anybody lose money?
Mm-mm.
Nobody loses money, and so you hear this, the federal, it's the FDLE, it's the federal, Florida federal. It's the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. So is that who showed up at yours? That's the main. That's like the FBI for Florida.
Yeah,
is that who shows up?
The equivalent, correct?
Okay.
Yeah. They show up and they just indict me. I just been indicted.
No questions asked.
Nothing. I wasn't even arrested.
Okay.
Ever.
And
so
would they knock on your door?
Knock on my front door. Yeah. 3 guys, one in a suit, 2 in vinyl jackets that had nothing to say, and the one guy handed me a thesaurus of paperwork. And that was it. It was literally an indictment. They didn't read me my Miranda rights. They didn't take me into custody. They didn't raid the house.
Right.
None of that fun stuff that you see, all over HBO or Showtime.
Well, what are they hoping for? What are they hoping for? To do that, are they hoping that you go get a lawyer? Your lawyer contacts and says, "Let me pay a fine."
Correct.
Okay.
Yes,
that's what they want you to do.
That's what they want you to do.
It's a shakedown.
It's a shakedown. Yeah. And I was so ignorant at the time and so egotistical, if you're being honest. I drove downtown and I was like, hey, who's this guy that this attorney on the top corner? So I go to the building, the lady, she's there, she's behind the bulletproof glass. And I'm like, hey, can I talk to this guy? And I do this guy right here. And
right.
she's looking. And she goes, oh, sweetheart, you should go get an attorney.
Right.
He's not talking to you.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, so this is for real.
Right.
In my world,
I'm not misunderstanding this.
No. And I thought it was a misunderstanding.
Right.
Like, no, we're just gonna pay a few dollars and just kind of move on.
So instead of spending the $500 for the license, you've charged me with 60 something or 66 felonies.
Correct.
Because I didn't fill out some paperwork that I clearly had I applied for the paperwork, I would have been approved because I'm already I'm approved to the feds. the state's a joke.
100% correct. Okay. You're totally spot on.
Right.
Yep, totally spot on. Securities laws were just that way. And a lot of it came from the 07, 08, the Dodd-Frank, all of the paperwork bullshit that everybody believed was relevant at the time to protect people. Countrywide went away and Bank of America, blah, 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 blah. Banks were just being eroded left, right, and center, during the quote-unquote Great Recession. They were going away. Lehman Brothers got locked up. Everybody was a criminal, who didn't do everything that they said or should do. So I was a poster child. Here you are, some, young 20-year-old kid in my early 20s, raising millions of dollars, driving expensive cars, living the life, if you will. And I remember I walked into one of the very first meetings because still I hadn't been arrested. So you're still running the company.
Mm-hmm.
You're still running the company. I still have my investments. I'm married. My wife and I have things going on. So life is continuing day to day. And, the Attorney General's office wants to sit down with you. They want to have conversations because they've got nothing but time and money. And I get into this elevator, and it was me, my 2 attorneys, and there was one guy who had met us there from the AG's office. And he was about my age, maybe a little bit older, but about my age. And this was the first time I understood that something was not going to go my way. Because when the elevator doors closed, he goes, what kind of money do you need to make to drive a car like you drive?
Right.
What? That's bizarre. And so I don't. And so my one of my attorneys, one of them's next to me, and the female is across from me like you are, and she gave me the you're not saying a word, bro. I was like, okay. She didn't say anything, but I got the look.
Because he's driving a Toyota Corolla, and he doesn't like you.
100%. Here you are, at the time, you're in a custom 1 of 100 Jaguar, that shipped over from London and yada, yada, yada. And you're a big deal. You're trying to figure out which exotic car to drive at, the age of 23 years old. You get in an elevator with a guy who just spent 8 years, paper cuts, through law school. And now he got a job for maybe $47K.
He still owes $300,000 in student loans.
He hasn't been laid in a decade, and here we are in an elevator. And he's the one that's looking through my, he's the initial paperwork investigator. And I thought, oh boy, this is interesting.
Yeah, it's funny. I had a friend that went to trial. I mention this guy all the time. His name, we called him Red Bull because he was selling Red Bull vending machines. It was a business opportunity scam. So, and he goes to trial because he's like, I don't feel like I've done anything wrong. So he went to trial, and he corrected me the other day, or one. I always say they spent a whole day. He didn't. He said they spent several hours, not the whole day. I was like, oh, okay. They had other things to do, but they spent several hours just questioning him on purchases he'd made. Like, what'd you spend $1,200 for? And he'd be like, at the whatever resort, and they'd go, that's dinner, right? And he'd go, yeah, that's me and two guys. We went to dinner. You spent $1,100 on dinner. What'd you got? I mean, whatever. How much was this? How much was your Bentley? And it was like 800,000. How much was, like, just when you went
Correct.
on? I mean, and he's like, they went over and over and over the checks. He's like, anything they ask you sounds ominous,
Horrible.
It sounds like he is, and you're sitting there thinking to myself, what they're trying to do is make sure the jury hates you.
100%.
And he said, I'm sitting there telling them, like, look, I don't have any money. I'm broke because of this whole thing. I'm broke. He's like, and here's the thing. He's like they've taken this, they've taken that, they took all this. He said, the one thing they left me with one car. Here's our cheapest car. He didn't, this is just him telling me this.
Yeah.
He said the cheapest car they left him with was, he said, my wife's BMW. He said, it's probably 2 years old. He said, but it was like an 850 whatever.
Yeah, $140,000 car.
Yeah, it's a $140,000 vehicle. It was paid off. It was what. So he said, I'm sitting there telling the jury, I'm broke. I'm
Mm-hmm.
waiting for them to foreclose on my
your
house.
picture.
I'm this. No, it wasn't even that. He said, so when that day was over, he goes into the parking garage to get into his car. He said, I chirp my car, chirp, chirp. I go to get in, and he said, one of the jurors was parked like 2 or 3 cars down. He said, he's driving like a beat up, rusted out Toyota that's fucking 10 years old, 12 years old, whatever. And he said, this guy looks over at me. He goes, I'm in a fucking suit and I'm getting into $100 and something thousand sports car. And he just listened to me the whole day explain, I have no money. I'm broke. He goes, so I know he looked at me. He goes, I desperately wanted to say, hey, bro, wait a minute. I know how that, like, I immediately thought, fuck, how does this look?
Correct.
He goes, and I wanted to say, hey, wait a minute. I really am, bro. I've got no money. This is all they left me with. Like, I have to drive something. This is what they left me with. It's paid for. Like, he said, but we looked at each other in the eye, and I know not to talk to him. He said, but I looked at him and I thought, fuck, I'm going to lose this fucking trial.
100%.
But they can.
Same story. Same story. And everything, like you say, gets read out loud. And the way it looks on paper, every email that you've ever sent or joked with your buddies, when you're reading it out loud from a third party perspective.
It just sounds horrible. It
Terrible.
Always sounds horrible. It doesn't
Terrible.
matter. Mr. Cox fed the homeless. It sounds horrible. Like the way they can say it, you're sitting there thinking, oh my God, I didn't know that was illegal. I'm so sorry.
I didn't realize they didn't have a home. I'm so sorry. It is, man. And everything gets read out loud. Everything. We fought this. We fought it from 2008 to 2012.
So you went to trial?
No.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, you're just fighting it, trying to get them.
Fighting it in the back, here and we did everything that we could do. I hired the best friend of the attorneys general that was, overseeing the case. Now I have 3 attorneys that are just there because they're all buddies and they're the who's who. And I bought a Cartier watch, and I bought a Ford Explorer, and I gave money for down payment on a cabin. I gave duffel bags of cash. It was 5 years of just nausea mentally, emotionally, physically, financially. You're just drained. Every 30, 60 days, you're going back to the courthouse. You're putting your 3 quarters into the meter. You're walking in. They're reading all sorts of things you don't understand. That sounds just incredibly terrible because you're a horrible human. Like you said, he's fed the homeless. There's good proof that he kicked a dog one time, even though the dog was biting somebody.
He's mean to children.
Right. He's definitely mean to children. We impersonated Santa Claus in the mall one time to give away candy canes. I mean, it was just wretched. And you'd hear this every month, every other month, every month. And it was just, you guys have an agreement? Nope, we're still doing this. And it was just, okay, move it. Move the goalpost. 2011, fourth quarter, I was just done. I told my wife, like, whatever's coming after this can't be this bad. I mean, this is just, I had a little bit of bravado still left in my briefcase. I got a letter of a clean bill of health from the FBI. They went and poured through all of my documentations and said no fraud, no misappropriation, all the things that would be sexy typically in a case like this. The West Coast director wrote me a clean bill of health. I still have that paperwork. And so I thought, okay, that kind of bodes well if you kind of get in front of people, hey, to your point, had I filed the paperwork, super big misunderstanding. I wasn't over here just knocking over 7-Elevens or beating up old ladies. It wasn't a credit card. It wasn't a pump and dump. It was none of that nonsense. And my charges, I thought, reflected that. A lot of times, especially now you and I are removed for so many years, like wire fraud, bank fraud, misappropriation of funds. I see those a lot. I didn't have any of those charges. It was quite literally, I was charged with transactions of an unregistered securities dealer or salesman.
That just seems like a fine.
It's the way it is, brother. It's the way it is. So I go to my attorney and I go, 2011, like, hey, we're done. We're dead. Like, I'm so emotionally exhausted from this thing. I'm still trying to build. I still have investors. I still have a wife. Like, I got a whole life out here. I'm still trying to go to church, be a good human. I'm on the front page. Like, this whole thing's bad, right? And she says, get through the holidays. Okay. That was probably the best advice I ever got from an attorney. Everything else was just ridiculous paperwork. So January 20th of 2012, I stood in the courtroom, stood before the judge, and he read all of the things. Because you went to school, because you have a degree, because you had an attorney, because you should have known better. And as a result, I'm going to make an example out of you. 2 years, Arizona Department of Corrections. Immediately remanded.
How does that work? Like, where do you go from there to, and did you expect to get some type of incarceration? You're thinking,
we all said probation. Well, we all said we've paid the money. We've gone through we've poured over documentation. We've gone through this. Like, nobody's screaming and yelling.
What about the district attorney? What are they saying? We want prison time?
They always wanted jail time. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. They always
so did they say 2 years, or did they have a recommendation?
No. We agreed to put it before the judge and let the judge do it.
I've never seen that really go well.
No.
With the exception of maybe one time, and I didn't even know the guy. It was a guy that knew of the guy. It was a California.
No, I didn't.
California life. They're supposed to give you life if you have so many.
Okay.
Got in front of the judge, pled his case, and the judge actually said, "I'm going to give you like 8 years instead of what they're asking for."
Jeez.
But I don't. Like I said, I don't know that guy. That's somebody told me about his buddy.
I got you. Yeah.
Which I'm sure it's true, but still, very seldom does it when you give it up to the judge, because they're so callous that they don't even fathom what they're doing. So.
It is interesting you say that, not to jump ahead, but I had a probation officer that woke me up to that, like, term limit idea, the callousness behind them. And when I got him, he said, I've been a PO longer than you've been alive. And he told me this in his office. He said, I'm so conditioned that when I let my mom stay at my timeshare, I make her sign a lease. Like, he's that messed up.
Yeah.
He's that screwed up.
He's seen so many things go wrong.
He's that screwed up. Yeah. He's like, my kids, when we get pulled over by the cops, for speeding or whatever, like they have, he goes, I open up all the doors. Like, he's so conditioned. He's so, like, to the point where you go, man, I don't know if you should be doing this any longer. Like, everybody's a bad guy. Everybody's out to get you. The world is always ending. The sky is always falling. I'm like, brother, I don't know if that's a good place to live. But to your point, these judges are reading, in my opinion, a vast majority of them are reading sentence structure, sentencing guidelines.
Yeah.
That's it. There's very little conciliatory thought process of if this, then that, could this, then we should. Here we go. Like, how do you in any world take a 7-figure earner off the street who's paying taxes? Right.
Who simply didn't pay the $500 to get the license.
Correct.
To do what he was doing, even though he was licensed to the federal government, which really probably should supersede your state licensing. But
in almost every other state, it does.
Right.
That's the interesting part, right?
I don't even know that. I just instinctively,
You are smart.
Yeah.
Amazing. I think we agreed upon.
I know.
It was amazing. Cool.
I tell my wife that all the time.
Yes, you are. And she repeats it. You are.
That's not what she says at all.
Oh, okay. We're not there yet?
No, there was a brief moment in time, but since then I get a scoff.
She was like, shut up about the red wall. Okay. You've had one amazing moment. Okay. Jeez Louise, it's red. Yeah, man. And there we go. Immediately remanded, handcuffs, bing, in the courtroom. You're there. You've got your suit on because I'm an idiot. And I thought that would help.
Right.
Literally. And it's so funny you mentioned, and it's only funny now because we can laugh about it now. mentioned your buddy in the garage. So the day I get sentenced, I thought, we're gonna be like the people. And so we pulled up in my wife's Lexus.
Right.
Right. I was just like, this is a 4-door. This is what normal people drive. Pull up in the Lexus, I put my 3/4 in because I'm coming back out. Got my suit and tie on, let's like prim and proper. And there it was immediately. I mean, literally, he read it out loud, and it was all the things I thought, oh, this sounds, this is good. Yeah, totally. You're right. I do have a degree. I didn't swindle anybody. There's not anybody over this, who's my investor pool that's 75 and living on SSI, like some degenerate, there's no, he took your money and bought a yacht or a lamp. No. This, I told you where it was going. It went there. Everybody got bing, bang, boom. And he's reading all of these things out loud and then just sucker punches you in the throat.
Yeah.
Bam, 2 years. They put the clinks on you. My wife's in the courtroom, my mom, all my supporters. It kind of hits you like a ton of bricks. You don't really know. I wasn't expecting it. So it's, what to expect when you're expecting.
Yeah. Because you've done all the right things in life.
Yeah, you should have known better.
Yeah. I mean, you're gonna use all of my accomplishments against me.
100%.
And of course, the thing is, had you had none of those accomplishments, he would have used that against you.
You got it.
So there's just no winning.
No, not at all. But yeah, I went downstairs. They take you through the jail and the elevator and the whole process of just nastiness. And I will tell you though, the first moment of gratitude was when I was 30, 60 minutes into this process. There was, as we all know, everybody listening to this, jail and prisons, very, political, very color, racially motivated. So, in your holding tank, you sit with people who look like you and act like you and sound like you. And I was sitting by myself. Everyone else was a drug addict. And this guy walked in and he had a suit on and he was white and he was about my age. And I thought, oh, okay. So he came and sat down next to me. And, the first question you don't ask is, oh, what did you do?
Yeah.
Right. No, it's more like as you're getting to know each other in this weird holding tank, he went to trial and he got 8 years.
Right.
That was my first moment of gratitude, Matt. It was like,
I could have
got 8, 9, 17, 46, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Right. 2 felt, for the first time in my life, 2 felt like palatable. I can do 2. Okay.
Yeah, no, the funny thing is that it doesn't matter how much time you get. It's always. I've only met 2 people the whole time I was locked up that said, I got basically they were like, I got a deal. Like I really I deserved more. I got this. I'm thrilled.
Wow.
One of them's John Boziak, who was supposed to get like 10 or 12 years. He ended up with 2 because his lawyer, by happenstance, he said one thing. She said, you know what? Don't sign that. Hold on. Went and looked into something, came back and said, I got this thrown out because somebody had opened up a package that had no right to do it. And they had been lying. Secret Service had been lying, saying that they had like a warrant to open it. When in fact, the mail person just opened it and found it and called them. They showed up, they arrested him, and he pled guilty.
I got it.
So you pled guilty to everything. He's ready to sign for, it was like 10 or the range is something like 10 or 12, I forget. Whoa. And then while he's doing it, he's like, man, if that fucking guy, I can't believe I got to go to jail for 10 years because that guy opened that package. And she was like, whoa, what guy opened what package? The Secret Service opened the package. And he's like, no, the guy at the UPS store opened it and called the Secret Service. She's like, she goes, hold on.
Really?
And this, by the way, this is a public defender.
Whoa.
Which never happens.
Yeah,
Usually they go, yeah, sign.
Yeah.
But she goes, I'm going to be back. She leaves, comes back, says, I got him to drop this. She goes, but I couldn't get him to drop the aggravated identity theft. I'm sorry. You're going to have to do 2 years. He's like, what? So let me sign. Yeah.
Whoa.
The other guy was on meth, had been up for 4 or 5 days, was driving a truck through a national forest. Okay. Like the highway went through it. Uh-huh. He's driving through it. He dozes off. The truck veers off. He runs over 2 hikers that are just hiking along the boom. Oof. Now, there's no such thing as vehicular manslaughter in the federal system, and it was on federal land, so he got charged with murder, and then he got 15 years. And when I was like, I don't know why I said this. I just, when he told me, I was like, can you appeal it? And he looked at me, he goes, I killed 2 people. He goes, I think I got a deal. I mean, he was teared up, started crying, got up and walked out of the room, just cold.
Whoa.
Like you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously it's horrible that these two people died, but you could see it was killing him. And he was actually, I think he was getting out in like a year or two.
Whoa.
Yeah. But those are the only two people who were like, man, I got a deal. Everybody else, you just don't, no matter what they give you, you've already justified your crime to yourself. And
Correct.
you feel like,
For so many years.
I don't deserve 5 years. I don't deserve that. You know, I don't. And then they give you 5 years, and you're like, they could have given me probation. They could have.
Yeah. No, I got a phone call last week from a guy. He just signed a federal 60 to 96 months. And, that was his question to me. Did I do the right thing? Did I do? And I'm like, bro. And his is blatant. It's blatant.
Right.
It's bad. And so I'm like, bro, you could probably got 30 if they took this to trial.
Right.
The ways that these things stack up. I mean, he's got like hundreds of victims.
Right.
So
downloaded lots of pictures.
Lots. There's a lot of people in the basement.
What's funny is I feel like I know exactly what this case is about.
I'm just like, oof.
But yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
so I'm like 60 to 96 on a federal. Maybe you can fight for 48.
Well, it's really funny about people is the people that haven't been through the system are still in the mindset of it's about justice. And because they're focusing so hard on what I really deserve, they don't focus on what these people can do to me. And if you focused more on, listen, like they can give you 20 years and you're saying, no, I don't deserve 20 years. You're still thinking justice.
Correct.
You're thinking the right thing to do.
Correct.
They're not thinking about the right thing. They're thinking about a conviction. They're thinking about getting, names on the board, years on the board. That's what they're focused on. So stop thinking like they have enough evidence to give you 20. They're now offering you 10. You're saying, I deserve probation. It was a mistake. Stop it. That does not remove that from the equation because you're the only one thinking that way.
Yeah.
The agents aren't thinking that way. The prosecution is not thinking that way. The judge is not thinking that way. And so they have all the guns. They have all the prisons. They've got all the barbed wire. They've got the court system. They've got everything on their side. You have nothing. So it's about getting the best possible sentence versus the worst possible sentence, and justice is not a part of it. So, and then the other thing is like stop complaining.
Oh, bro.
Complaining
it doesn't do anybody good.
It does nobody good. People end up hating you.
Yeah, they do.
And you hate yourself. You hate everybody else. It ruins the person that you could be inside. You could walk out and what's her name? Yesterday, right? We interviewed a chick named Portia.
Portia Louder.
Yeah,
I know Portia.
Right? Portia. Yeah. She said,
I know Portia.
She said that somebody said stop.
Federal.
She said stop thinking about how horrible this is. Start thinking about the amazing person that you're gonna walk out of prison as. Yeah. And she was like, when she walked out of prison so many years later, she walked out and she was like, I was an amazing person.
Heck yeah.
Like and people were like, you're an amazing. She's like, I am an amazing. She was like, it was amazing.
Yeah, and she's got a boatload of confidence.
Yeah, but that is the right attitude to stop thinking, I shouldn't have gone to jail. I shouldn't have this. I shouldn't have that. They didn't. Stop it, bro. You got to look at, your best bet is to look at this time as a gift. You'll probably walk out a decent human being.
It's funny you say that because that's the same advice I give to everybody is that I hope the 4 people in comments roast him. Seriously.
You were saying you cannot go in.
You cannot go into this, and when you walk out, nobody wants to hear my baby mama did this, the district attorney hated that, my co-defendant, whatever. Nobody wants to hear that. Nobody wants to hear that.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to hear that. The best advice I give to these cats on the way out, the blueprint for employment is this. Hey, Matt, I'm Travis, and for the last 2 years, I've been incarcerated. What I learned about myself while I was incarcerated is 1, 2, and 3. The reason I applied for this job is because I think I can bring A, B, and C to your company based on what I learned.
What did you do to get yourself incarcerated? What do you tell them when they ask that?
It's irrelevant.
Well, I know, but people ask.
No, I know, but that's the conversation that brings you accountability.
Well, I understand, but I'm saying if an employer
asks you, go, this is the charge.
Yeah.
Period.
Oh,
this is the charge.
I was going to say, I would absolutely own up to it. Like anybody,
100%.
I wouldn't say anything that mitigates the circumstances. I was a drug dealer. I was young. I was stupid.
Yep.
I sold drugs.
Period. This is the charge.
Yeah.
That's it.
Went to prison. Here's what and then you know what I'm saying? Like that makes sense to me because then I would try and end on that note. Like I
Have
would
to.
start by, even if they said, I would start with, here's what I did. I was stupid. I went to prison. Here's what I figured out while I'm in
Here's what I've
prison.
learned.
Here's where I'm at now.
You have to.
Because if you do it reverse, in their mind while you're talking to them, I think they're thinking, he's a drug dealer. He's a drug dealer.
They
I
could.
was a drug dealer.
But a lot of these guys get out and they want to go. They don't want to check the box. That's what I hear.
Oh, of course.
Oh, I don't want to check the box. No, man. Like, stop with the lying bullshit.
Yeah.
Just from the jump. Hey, man, this is where I've been for 2 years.
Look, the box is actually, if you look at it correctly, the box is not bad. Because if I check the box and they call me back after I've checked the box, now I know I got a chance.
100%.
I would hate to not check the box, get into the interview, and now I have to explain.
Or worse, I get the job.
Oh yeah.
And now I'm just every time somebody, hey, can we talk to you over here? You're just I'm nauseous.
Wade, that's Wade, our buddy Wade, who had got 1 or 2 jobs, and as soon as they figured it out, they quit. Or if the company gets sold, the new company fires him. And this, by the way, was never convicted of anything. Was just arrested on a murder charge and was fighting it the whole time. But every time they saw that he'd been arrested for a murder charge, fired him.
Yeah.
Like I'm still fighting it. I'm not guilty there.
See ya.
So I can't be here.
Yeah, right.
That's not.
No, that's not an easy one to.
No.
To
What's funny is, as far as recidivism is concerned, it has the lowest recidivism rate out there.
Oh, yeah.
Fraud, high.
very high.
Fraud and drugs.
Yeah, very
super high.
But both of those guys usually never accept responsibility.
Yeah.
That's what I've found, at least.
Yeah.
I get a lot of those guys. I was in prison last couple weeks ago. This guy screams from the back. He had anyways, I won't tell who he is, but anyhow. He says, I need to make Elon Musk money. I go, my guy, like, when do you get out? 9 months. So you'll be back in 13.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you'll see in about 13, because that'll be about your life cycle. Like, you don't even know what that means.
Yeah.
So the idea that you're going out there with, just shut up. Like, stop. Like,
Do people really say that?
yeah, he said it out loud to me too. Have it on camera.
I'd laugh. I'd be like, the fact that you have first of all, the fact that you have the confidence to say that out loud is actually pretty good. But the statement itself was horrible.
Ignorant.
Yeah.
Ignorant.
But the fact that you thought it was the right thing to say, I mean, is that a joke? Or if he was like, no, I'm serious.
No,
like,
he was offended because I tried to, I go, well, let's reverse engineer that. Like, do you have a family of like 900 or like, what's the story? Like, you have kids? No kids yet. Okay. So in this county where you're locked up, you're going to stay here? Yeah, I'm going to stay here. Okay. So about 65K would be really good for you in this particular county. Right. So like, let's get you to 90 and then you just be king of the world. Like, you could sell 3 Hyundais a month at the local dealership and make 90K. Like, and that's a good living. And then if you made like 140, like, you'd just be out of your mind.
Yeah. That guy's got bigger problems.
Massive
because he's, in his mind, he thinks that success is based on an income.
Yes, a dollar amount.
Yeah, and that's a huge mistake. I know guys that are middle of the road, teaching their kids little league soccer teams, able to go to all the functions, are married with a wife, happiest people in the world. And I know guys that are worth $20-30 million. I'm having dinner with a guy. He'll never watch this. On Tuesday, it's probably worth 20 or 30. I've mentioned a few times, 20 or 30 million dollars. Super successful, overweight, not in good shape. Kids can't stand him. Ex-wife, miserable human being, unhappy. You have everything in the world.
Why do you think that is?
He values money so much. It means everything to him. And money and respect mean everything to him. And money and respect have probably destroyed his life. His ego, just like every decision I have ever made in my entire life, every single bad decision I've ever made was not 99%, 100% of every bad decision I ever was based on my ego. Every single one. And he just, it's horrible. He's not a bad person. I say that, but he's not, but his values are so, Jesus. I talked to another guy yesterday that I was in prison with that, once again, this guy's worth millions. I always say this. I always say every person I've ever known that has owned a Lamborghini is an asshole. This guy's owned 2. And he's an
the guy I was on the phone with that.
No,
that
he's
did,
actually
no. The guy that I did, that was on the 60 to 96.
Yeah.
He had a black Lambo.
Of course he did. Of course he did. And what's so funny is all of these people are miserable and they don't understand why. And the whole conversation I had with this guy yesterday for 45 minutes was him rambling on, name dropping, talking about money. And I'm like, how's your daughter? A minute on the daughter. You're in the middle of the divorce. Are you still talking to her? Is it okay? How's she? You know, she's a whore. She's this, she's that, she this, she that, she did this, she did that. And here's the funny thing is that everything was her. And I'm thinking to myself, I know she caught you in a motel room with a fucking prostitute. I know that you fucking lie all the time. I know that you're fucking drunk and you're drinking. You're constantly, you've lost your license. Like, you've lost your license for life. In Florida, for them to take away your license for DUIs for life, you've really you're a bad drunk. Especially if you're rich. And you are rich. You can hire the best attorneys. You can go to the rehab. You've got so many DUIs. You're still drinking.
Yeah, you're a mess.
Yeah, he's just an absolute mess. And talking to him is so frustrating because you cannot explain to him that if he would just change his thought process, he would just become more appreciative and humble and stop thinking that everybody else was stupid and he was smart. He would be such a happy person.
And you went to prison with him.
Yeah, he's been to prison.
That's the scary
times.
part. So this is what's interesting, right? I love this. This is we could do a whole series on this. Why does one person go to prison and become the best version of themselves, and one person goes to prison and becomes the worst version of themselves?
Why do some people go to prison?
Yeah, why do some people go to prison? You and I both know guys that have gone to prison and gals come out the best version of themselves.
Yeah.
And then we know the other 9 out of 10 that come out worse.
Yeah, you think it's 9 out of 10? I think it's like 99 out of 100. But yeah, I think.
Is it a choice? Is it the environment?
Oh, it's absolutely
Is it we haven't
a choice.
dealt with? Okay.
Absolutely a choice. Like
I agree.
I think that most people go in there, they're angry, bitter. They hang around other angry, bitter people.
Yeah, a lot of resentment.
Yeah, they don't look at this as a chance to improve themselves. They don't. Of course, a lot of them go in. They don't think there's anything to improve. Like,
no.
And I taught GED, so I mean, I would have.
I taught.
Did you
at the community college?
No, I taught in prison.
I taught in prison at the community college.
Oh, really?
Bro,
what kind
hold
of
the phone,
what kind of
Colby.
prison- what
We're
kind of-
about to get crazy around here.
What kind of prison did you
Monday
go to?
through Friday,
You're
I
working-
left the yard.
Oh, that's insane. I'm not leaving anywhere.
I left the yard.
So, and you went, and they allowed you to go teach GED?
200, yes, at Cochise Community College. 250 of us left the yard every day.
Oh, that's nuts.
We worked for the sheriff's department, fire department, the school, the whole,
Elementary school.
elementary school.
Yeah, it'll be a good TikTok. That
That's
explains it.
nuts.
Oh, I'll tell you what. Here, Colby, you can chop this one up.
Yeah.
Literally, you want to talk about nuts? So, in this tiny little shit town that the prison was located in, well, there's 4 prison yards, right, in this little tiny town. From my cell at night, you could see the Mexican flag. That's how close we were to the border.
Whoa.
A lot of these COs would walk over, drive over, would work in the prisons, walk over, drive back. That close. One of my jobs was at the elementary school, Monday through Friday, 8 hours a day,
Okay.
in the lunchroom, in the maintenance room. So when the kids would go and rotate to recess, we would go and we would clean the classroom.
Right.
Okay, and we'd be on this rotation. So you'd clean up the entire school throughout the day, and a portion of that was the lunchroom. Myself and 4 other guys were opening chocolate milk for children
Right.
in our oranges, in our inmate uniform.
That is fucking nuts.
Walk yourself through this as a parent for everybody in middle America.
Right.
Right? Like, so you've taken a guy like myself, a 7-figure annual earner, you've thrown him in prison because he's no longer good enough to be on the outside. He has to be inside. But then you've let him leave the yard every day to go to work
Right.
for 35 cents an hour
With children.
with children. Now imagine how screwed up this town has to be. Walk yourself through it. I'm a parent. All of you parents out there, pretend you're a parent. You're walking in and it's your kid's birthday, 4th grade. And you walk into the lunchroom, it's you've got the balloons, the helium, the cake, the whole nine. And there's 5 inmates there, and we're standing at the counter, and we're helping children with their pizza slices, the rectangular pizza. I've got the pizza cutter. I'm opening chocolate milks because they're like been out too long, and you got to open them and pull the whole thing. And okay, here you go. How screwed up of a town do you have to be to realize the only way this town works is if the inmates are actually there doing the jobs, and you're okay with it?
Yeah. I what's so funny is that I wonder to myself, like, one, I think, it's inappropriate, but then I also think those guys are out custody. They're harmless. They're not going to do anything. They're on their best behavior. They're happy to be outside of the. So I'll bet you there's never been an incident with any of these fucking guys. You know what I'm saying?
Correct. That's why they continue to get off.
And they show up
every day.
They're getting paid big money, 35 cents an hour.
And the state is getting the contract.
Oh, the state's probably billing them out at
Absolutely.
$12, $15.
You know it. Tons of money.
Right.
Tons of money. So yeah, we would do a lot of good around town. We had a community garden that the inmates would take care of. They'd do wildland fire. They'd work at the sheriff's department. They'd work at the administration for the school buildings. So my job for about the better portion of a year was I was a tutor at the community college. And so the 4 yards would feed. And so you'd have, like the GED program, and you'd have, different vocational programs that would take place inside the community college that we would be dropped off at. In my particular area, there was this thing called the Small Business Development Center, SBDC. It's a nonprofit. They go into prisons and churches, all sorts of stuff around different communities. And that SBDC came in, and the gentleman who was responsible for it, he starts teaching like Business 101. I start teaching it behind him, and I'm like, hey, but I just came down, so the stuff that you should be teaching these guys is, this about business, that about business, this about. And he's like, what's your story? How do you know about this? And literally, it turned into a year of therapy for me. I came from the financial services industry. I came from how to build a business. I came from entrepreneurship. And so here I am with this opportunity with hundreds of guys from 4 yards going out and saying, all right, what do you want to do when you get out? I want to build a business. Okay, like not in dope or legit, right? And I would tell them, I made a joke. You guys are entrepreneurs. You're just in the wrong industry.
It's when I also taught they have something called ACE courses at night, adult continuing education courses. Okay. And I taught the real estate course. And there'd be 30, 40 guys in the class, the first thing. And I'd be like, who is here for selling drugs? And you've got like half the guys, raise their hand. They'd be like, boom. And I'd be like, are you guys like street level? Like you at one point, were you on the corner talking to people, shaking them out? Hey man, what's up with it? You want something? And they were like, yeah. I said, you guys will kick ass. I said, because you're fearless. You'll knock on doors. You'll talk to anybody. I'd be like, this industry, I said, is one of the few industries, I said, where you can take everything you already know and you could apply it to real estate. And I said, here, and then I would start explaining, knocking on doors, selling, flipping contracts, you know what I'm saying? Bird dogging. And that's what I'd do the whole thing. And I'd explain it. They'd be sitting there going, you're telling me I can go knock on somebody's door, convince them to sell their house for $100,000. Then I can sell that contract for $150 and I make the 50.
I can wholesale it.
And I don't have any money involved.
Yeah.
No, none. Exactly. Yes. They would be like, oh my God.
It's so funny. I tell these guys the same thing behind bars. We have a whole real estate course behind bars on their tablets, teaching them exactly that. Go knock on doors. The whole idea of, the sign in the ground, we buy houses, like put your number on that thing. Start dialing for dollars. I mean, man, that's so funny. It is. It's an industry that and I say this to these guys all the time, like if you just take all the things that you did, you're not afraid to take a risk. Obviously, it's why you're here behind bars, but there's this idea that you don't understand what you don't know about yourself continues to bring you back here.
Yeah. Well, most of them get there. They get into prison. Like I said, they hang out with other guys. They hang out with other negative people. They talk about selling drugs or whatever crime that they committed. They talk about that with other like-minded individuals, and they start to learn how to do it better. Right. And then so they're basically and I used to say this all the time. Guys would be explaining something to me. I go, "What do you think?" I go, "I think you're working on your next indictment." That's what I think. That's what it sounds like to me.
That's good.
And they would, so these people hang out with those guys. It's a very negative environment. They don't read the books that they should be reading. They tell
them the self-work.
Right. They tell themselves they're going to do this when they get out, do this when they, you know how many guys I would meet and they'd say, yeah, because I wrote stories when I wrote true crime stories when I was locked up. And guys would say, I'm gonna write my story when I get out. Because I'd say, hey man, I heard you have a great story. I heard this or that. Tell me the story. And they tell me the story. I go, bro, that sounds amazing. I'd love to write a synopsis on that. And they'd say, man, I don't know. Because what I would do is I'd say, once, if they were okay with it, I'd say, well, what I want to do is I want to attach your life rights to the story I'm going to write, and I'll put it on a website that I've already got, and hopefully I can sell your life rights. I'd already sold some guys life rights. So they already knew, and I got some guys in Rolling Stone magazine. So they already know this is possible. This is Cox. This is what he's doing. And so some of these guys, yeah, I don't know, bro. Like, I think I want to write it myself when I get out. And I go, well, wait a minute. You've been locked up 7 years, right? Like, you've got 2 more years to go, right? And I was like, you'll never have this much time in your life.
Never.
And I said, if you haven't written it by now, I promise you will not write it when you get out. Mm-hmm. I said, you can keep telling yourself that. You know, I had that conversation.
Yeah.
Like, or you can let me, you've read 6 of my stories. You know I wrote so-and-so. You know I got 2 published books at this point. Like, this is the smart move. But if that's fine. Mm-hmm. You know, and I said, if you want, you can write it in here. I'll help you. Start by writing it out. And I'd explain it all to him. Like, here, if you're really serious, I'll help you, knowing you're not going to do anything.
None of it.
Because I see you on the rec yard every day, walking the track, playing, playing volleyball with your friends, or doing whatever, handball, whatever you're doing. You're not doing anything.
You're not serious about it.
And that's what happened is I ended up writing their stories. But they would always say, when I get out, I'm going to do this. I'm going to open a restaurant. I'm going to this. I'm going to that. Yep. I'm going to, I'm going to go borrow money from my friends and family, and I'm going to open up a restaurant. What do you think? And I said, I think you're going to lose a lot of friends and family. That's what I think, as well as their money.
Yeah.
Like, I think that, restaurants have a huge failure rate.
Huge.
And, I'd explain the whole thing to them, how it's going to go under. You have no experience in this. I said, I think you should go work for a restaurant. That's what you should do. And I think you could become a manager and learn how the whole thing. I said, also, they have a culinary school here that tells you, are you in that? Man, fuck that. Okay. Listen, so you're not going to do any of this, by the way. You're just going to get out, get frustrated, start selling drugs again. And I'll see you in 2 years, because I'll still be here. That's yeah.
Yeah.
And, you would have these conversations with them, and half of them would get frustrated and upset and walk away. And the other half would walk away, but they'd come back.
Those are the good ones.
And they'd be like, I don't know anything about restaurants.
Yep.
Like, and they'd say, you're right.
I thought about what you said.
Yeah. What do you think I should do? Because I'm serious about this. I go, do you have a business plan? Have you looked into it? Have you had your friends and family send you books in on how to start a restaurant and anything? I said, because all I see you read is hood novels. Did they read hood novels? Yep. They're the urban novels.
Yep.
That's all you read.
Correct.
So there are these guys that they don't have anybody. It's kind of like the black kid born next to the projects, whose grandmother's raising him because his mother's a prostitute. His father's in and out of prison. All the guys and family members in his life are selling drugs. And then he starts selling drugs. He gets in trouble. He goes to prison. He hangs out with those same people again. It's like, you're hanging out with people that are selling drugs and going to prison. They're saying the same thing. You go to prison, you keep hanging out with them. Like, nothing has changed. Pete, my buddy Pete, says, you cannot go to prison and continue to behave in the same manner that led you to prison and get released and not expect to come back.
100%.
Nope. So I'm like, this is an opportunity. It's like, first of all, there's 3 guys here from NASA. There's guys, and I'm not joking, they're like NASA. There's guys here that have master's degrees. There's guys here. There was Lance, I forget his last name. He was a billionaire. There's guys here that owned worth $100 million. There was a guy there that owned 2 nuclear power plants and was building nuclear power plants in China. You know what I'm saying? Like, there are guys here that are you could never get into the same restaurant. If you were the busboy, you wouldn't be in the same restaurant. Well, maybe if you're the busboy. But so the idea that you're here with these people and you're not spending time with them and talking to them and taking the classes that they're teaching, because someone like me, I'm teaching class. Like, this guy who's a drug dealer, like, the only opportunity you have to mix with me is in class.
Correct.
Maybe we sit down at the same table, but pretty much it's you and your car. Your little gang members are all sitting together, and there's 4 people there, and I'm not going to sit there, or I sit there. You guys come in, you guys sit there, and you guys talk, and like, you don't want to interact with me in front of them. Like, whatever it is, the situation is to start taking these classes. You can talk to these guys on the rec. You're taking none of those opportunities. You're laying in bed at night daydreaming about putting a koi pond in your fictional restaurant that will never get off the ground. If you sleep hot at night, you know how disruptive that can be. Whether you're having trouble falling asleep, you're waking up sweating in the middle of the night, or all of the above. That's where GhostBed can help. As the makers of the coolest beds in the world, GhostBed is your go-to for cooling mattresses, cooling pillows, and cooling bedding. From their signature Ghost Ice fabric to patented technology that adjusts to your body's temperature, every Ghost Bed mattress is designed with cooling in mind. So whether you want a plusher mattress that cushions your shoulders and hips, or a firm option with exceptional support, your Ghost Bed will keep you cool and comfortable all night long. When you purchase a Ghost Bed mattress, your comfort is guaranteed. You can try out your mattress for 101 nights, risk-free, to make sure it's the right fit for you. Plus, they offer free shipping, and most items are shipped within 24 hours. If you're not sure which Ghost Bed is right for you, check out their mattress quiz. You'll answer a few questions and get a personalized recommendation. Even better, our listeners can get 50% off site-wide for a limited time. Just visit ghostbed.com/Cox and use the code COX at checkout. Again, that's ghostbed.com/Cox with the code COX at the checkout to save a whopping 50% off site-wide. Or borrowing money from your drug dealer friends, and you picture yourself with Lamborghinis parked in front of your restaurant while you're walking around handing out champagne bottles to everybody, and you're a big shot, but you haven't thought about one fucking time on what the square foot of that restaurant is or how people are going to figure out that you've got a restaurant. You haven't put 1 ounce of thought into
None
that.
of it. What equipment you're going to need.
Yeah, I'm going to pass out flyers at the strip club.
Yeah, that'll work. It's such, oh man, it's so interesting. It's such a topic for me that's just like near to my heart, because I'm like, I really wish that you could get, I love the stories of success, and I think that's why I'm addicted to it, of the guys that actually get out and actually do something and actually change their life inside.
Yeah. You know what's funny about this is that I would talk to these guys in prison. And it's funny because I would talk to them in prison, and then when I got out, I started thinking about it too. And it's truer getting out and seeing what's happening with society than it was in prison when I was trying to explain to them, just like you had said, where it's like, look, you were born in the projects, right? Your grandmother raised you, your grandpa, whoever raised you, you're in and out of prison your entire life, you're a drug dealer. In their mind, success is I open a music studio, I get a bunch of music artists. By the way, you have no experience doing any of this. No. You get them to sign a bunch of contracts, you set up some agreements, you get them a record deal, whatever it is, and you end up making you're the next Diddy before, no Diddy, before the Diddy.
Yeah.
He was Diddy.
We don't want the Diddy.
Yeah. Puff Daddy before the indictment.
Mace.
Yes.
Mace era.
Right. So, yeah. So you're going to be 50 Cent.
Okay.
Right? So that's what your idea is when you get out. Either you're doing nothing to lead yourself to that, but that's success to you.
Correct.
But true success for that guy is getting out, becoming apprentice to a plumber, learning a trade of plumbing, getting his license as a plumber, which he can do as a felon. So you become a plumber, bidding out jobs, getting those jobs, getting yourself 2 or 3 people that work underneath you, and get a bunch of plumbing jobs, and making $150,000 a year. Because guess what? Plumbers make $150,000 a year. Or you could go back in time, go to school, become a lawyer, get a job at an insurance company. You could go 6 years of college to get your law degree, go to work for an insurance company, where you start at $50,000. And in 5 years from now, while you're still trying to pay off your $300,000 worth of student loans, maybe you'll make $150,000 a year, because the average lawyer makes like $130,000.
Correct.
So plumber, immediately almost, lawyer, 10 to 12 years, you're making $150,000, or get out of prison and in 2 years, you're making $150,000. Your idea of success, that needs to be your idea of success. Drywalling. These are trades that you can do that they can't stop you from doing with a felony. Yep. They need them. There's nothing wrong with them. Like get rid of all your friends when you get out. Don't hang out with any of those fucking people.
Places and things. You can't go to the same people. You can't go to the same places. You can't do the same things.
They don't know any of that.
No.
Don't talk to any of those guys.
None of them.
If you can move across the state and get a room in a decent neighborhood, do that. So they don't make it a game of saving money.
Yeah.
I got out
Budgeting.
of prison, $300, went to Walmart, bought $300 worth of clothes. I'd never been in Walmart in my life. I went into a super Walmart, bro. Fucking huge. Like, I remember being overwhelmed. Like, I've never been in anything this big. Home Depots weren't this size.
Yeah.
And I went in there and I bought $300 worth of clothes. I bought a pair of rubber boots that I wore for over a year. It's Florida. Rubber boots don't sweat, man. I mean, they don't breathe. Like I'm walking around in sweaty socks, working at the gym. But I made it a game of saving as much money as I could. Everything. Washing this. Bought a pair of clippers. Cut my hair. Clippers were like $20 for the clippers, but it was $30 to get your hair cut. Who the fuck's paying? When I heard $30 and I got a tip, $40 for a fucking haircut.
Time to get the clippers.
For $20-$25 I can bear it. And I put the thing, and it came with all the clips.
Oh, yeah.
Jess will remember when I would go in and cut my hair and come out with my hair buzzed, and that was it. Give a fuck with my hair. Nobody cares. Here's what I look like in a halfway house working at a gym cleaning toilets. But see, these guys daydream about getting out and being big shots.
Yeah.
Their daydreams are wrong. Their idea of success is wrong.
That's the big one right there.
Their idea of success?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the big one.
They think they're going to get out. They're going to be a big shot. All their friends are going to be impressed how they bounce back. And they're going to be big shots. And they're going to have tons of money. They're going to drive the Lamborghinis. The truth is they would be happier if they could find a wife, have a couple of kids, and run a company laying drywall, hanging drywall.
Don't you think that's peace, though?
What?
That second version? That's
absolutely.
Like, it's total peace, right?
Absolutely.
Like,
I've said many, many times, I wish I'd just been a middle-class guy.
The peace is, I think the version of success that should be taught to these guys is being able to lay down at night, head on your pillow, nobody looking over your shoulder. I think that really, you never go back.
Yeah. If somebody knocks at the door and you open the door and it's two cops,
you're like,
what's up? What's going on?
Hi, guys.
Correct. Hey, there's a guy ran through your back. Can we walk in the back? Absolutely, of course.
Correct.
As opposed to, fuck, there's two cops out there.
Nobody say a word.
As opposed to Bozak, that we get a knock at the door. I'm interviewing a guy, my buddy Bozak, and we get a knock at the door. He runs out, goes out the back door. And I remember, and Jess is here, and my wife was here, and he comes back. She goes, "You ain't living all right. You're not living right. You're right."
That's a good one.
He's in Thailand right now.
He's in Thailand right now.
Okay.
Yeah. Hiding from child support.
Yeah. But you're right. It's funny you say that. Man, so literally, this is hilarious back and forth. I was doing, when I got out, they said, "Hey, we want you to film your financial literacy course." So I'm filming my financial literacy course.
Is this with Brad Lee?
No.
Oh, yeah.
No. And so I'm filming the course in this guy's house. He was sent to us as a referral from like this nonprofit anyhow. And so we're filming it, and all of a sudden it is like boom, 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 boom. And the look on his face was the look we've all, that sheer terror. And he's like, we're still mic'd up like we are right now. And I'm like, am I getting this on camera? This would be so good if we got this on camera. I hope we get this on camera, right? The whole thing. And he's behind, he's over there, and he comes through his kitchen, and he's peeking around through his doors, and you can hear him. The cops are outside.
Yeah.
The cops are outside. They're 2 and 3 and 4 times. And I'm thinking to myself, one of us is going back to prison.
Yeah.
It's not going to be me.
Yeah, I was going to say, what is going on in your life right now that you can't answer that door?
My man, it is not going to be me. And I'm thinking this is all going to play out. Like, they're going to come over. It's a 1st-story condo. They're going to come over the little 4-foot wall, and they're going to come in here. And here we are, set up, and I'm going to have to explain this whole thing. This will be great. And it was that same moment when I was like, bro, you can't do this. This is not freedom. This is not a version of success. I don't care how many dollars you think that you're making. You're obviously not doing, like Jess said, you're not doing the right thing here. This is bizarre. But it's so funny you mentioned that. I just wish that version of success, and I don't know how we do it. I don't know how we get it out there, because the black Lambo and the red Ferrari, they're always, I guess, what we chase.
Yeah. Well, so I'll tell you, here's the thing. Let's go back to the drywaller.
Okay.
Who has a better shot of being a multimillionaire, the drywaller or the guy that immediately gets out and tries to be a multimillionaire? The guy that has the fantasy of opening a studio or opening a restaurant or being with Elon Musk money, going for the Elon Musk money without a plan,
Yeah.
right? Or his plan is delusional.
Yeah.
Does that guy have more of a chance of being a multimillionaire, or does the guy that goes out and says baby steps, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, and I'll be a drywaller, and I'm hoping to shoot for 150. Once I get 150, and if I can live beneath my means, I can save money. I can take this and turn it into something. Maybe I become a multimillionaire by having crews of guys laying drywall. Maybe I get connected with the guys that are building the houses and I start building subdivisions. It ain't sexy.
No.
It's not sexy.
No.
I'm sorry, it's not. But the fact is that I believe it's like 80 or 90% of the multimillionaires in the United States made their money in real estate.
Correct.
And it's not sexy.
No.
But it's it's doable and it's within your means, and in time you'll be that guy, and you have a better chance if you're not spending every single dime you have to impress all these other people that really hate your guts.
That really don't care about you.
Yeah, they don't care.
They
about
really
you.
don't care about you.
And nothing. Listen, nothing. Going to prison. If anything, if you learn anything from prison, it's that the people that you thought were your friends are not your friends.
That should be, yes.
Yeah, and
that should be tattooed
so
on
for
people.
me to get out and try and impress those people,
I could care less.
yeah.
Yeah.
No,
I could care less. But it's interesting, your version of that guy when you did that, the drywaller, because if you can make 150 and live on 75, then you can say, well, what if I invest a little bit of money into a retirement account through a Vanguard, and in 40 years, I might have something, or 30, whatever the number is. When I was inside, the first book that I wrote for these guys was Don't Buy a Cheeseburger with a Credit Card.
Right.
And it was just a compound interest conversation. Hey, if you take $5 every day from your paycheck and you move it over here over time, it's going to be like a lot. Or if you take $5 and you buy something on the value meal menu with your credit card and you don't pay it off and you let that interest build, it's going to be like a lot. Just a very rudimentary conversation about to your point, the actions over time. If I come out and I drywall and then I get a buddy who drywalls, and then I can get a contract for that buddy or two buddies or three. And now all of a sudden, like you said, now I have 4 houses. So now I need a crew. And now I don't have to drywall any longer. But you know what I need to do? I need to collect money. So I need an invoicing conversation and a receivables.
I need bookkeeping. Because a lot of people get in trouble.
Roll that up. Oh, that's a bookkeeper. Like those conversations are not happening when they go, oh, I'm going to pop bottles of Dom and we're going to have black leather couches in the restaurant.
It's funny, we're moving the studio, to another studio.
Right.
We could have afforded to do that over a year ago. Colby and I are and I love Colby, so conservative. It's almost feels like it's like, how long can we stay here?
Right.
And listen, we still wouldn't be looking
and get away with it
if it wasn't from certain guests that come that you start realizing like you're talking to them, or guests that I'd actually like to have on. This is really the big one. Is I have a guest that I would love to have on. I've talked to him multiple times. He's got an amazing story, but he has kind of a training day story.
I got you.
Training day from the point of robbing drug dealers, and although he can be very polite, I've seen him turn it off and on, and I know what he's capable of, and I don't want you to know where I live.
Correct.
It's not that I don't think he's a decent person, but I also know that if things ever got bad, I could be a target. Definitely would be a target, because that's how he looks at pretty much everybody as a target. We're cool, but if I ever need something, I'll just come take what you have. So and there's several people that have come that we've interviewed more and more people that are violent and have violent pasts, and and all of them, and it's funny too, because Colby says the same thing, all of them have changed their lives.
Yeah.
But is that forever? And if
Correct.
it's not forever, do things go bad, and do they look at me and say, I know somebody who's got some stuff, who looks like he might have some stuff. And let's face it, if you hit rock bottom and you're at that point, to me, robbing a place for a few that you think you can grab a couple $1,000s worth of stuff that you could sell for $300, I'm like, I wouldn't do that. Nobody would do that. No, they would. Drug addicts would do it
all day long.
Right. So we've held out to the point where it's like, hey, let's move. But I love the fact that could have done it a year ago and didn't. And the other thing, like right now, it's like when we get to a point where it's like, we're almost at the point where it's like, I need to get an assistant to help with booking. And then you kind of like, I can afford it, but how long can I do
Can I
it?
hang on to it?
Can I do
know.
this, continue to do this by myself
Yep.
before I start dropping things?
Yeah.
You know, I've come close to dropping a few things.
Yep.
And I always tell Colby, my biggest fear is one day I'm sitting here, I'm in the living room or whatever, I'm getting myself some orange juice or something I hear, and I go open the door and the guy's like, "Hey man, what's going on?"
Right.
"Hey." And I'm like, "Who are you?"
Whoopsie.
And they're like, "Bro, I just flew in. I'm booked today. We're doing a podcast." And I'm like, "Fuck."
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't want to, but that's my biggest fear.
Yeah.
Is that I dropped the ball.
Totally.
Haven't dropped the ball yet. There have been some close calls. But
Colby's like,
you know, but
Yeah.
but most people, what they do is before they can afford the assistant,
they're already spending.
they get it.
They're already
before they can afford, they think we got a good podcast, things are going good. We need to do that, blow it out. No. To me, we don't know what could. 2 bad months. 2 bad months, and most people go under, and that's living off their credit cards for
You're
one of those months.
absolutely right. Yep.
They're not thinking that.
No, they don't.
You have to think worst case scenario. You know, you can behave in a manner of abundance, but you have to be cognizant of the fact that things can go wrong. You can't live off of credit for long. It's just a recipe for disaster.
You think, how much of it do you think also plays into the gratitude?
Oh, I think that's like, I think that's like happiness. You know what I'm saying? That most people think that I'd say 99% of inmates feel the world owes them something.
Oh, yeah.
And every miserable person I know has that attitude.
So true.
Boziak feels like the
so
world
true.
owes him something. I have a buddy who's named Boziak, and if he watches this, he'd admit it. He doesn't want to work, and he just thinks being him, the world owes him something.
Yes,
and I, you know, it's John F. I love the John F. Kennedy quote. You know, everybody thinks that the government owes them something, but you know, it's the don't I forget how you say it. Don't
what
think
can you do for
don't think what the government can do for you. Think about what you can do for your don't think what can my country do for me. What you should be thinking, what can I do for my country?
Correct.
And that's so true. And it's always what can I get?
How can I short the system?
Yeah. Or I saw some quote the other day from some fucking jackass who was like, why would I go for a country that doesn't care about, or why would I go to war for a country that doesn't care about me?
Right.
Really? Well, leave, bro. What other country can you go to where you have this much opportunity? And if you think you don't have any opportunity, that's on you. That's your fault. Everybody's got opportunity here. Every single person. And it's more abundant now than ever. You can be in a wheelchair now and work remotely and make $100,000 if you actually just put some effort into it. You can find out anything for free on YouTube.
Yes.
Anything. It is insane how much you can learn on YouTube.
Do you see the comedian that can't talk? You see that one yet?
No.
Yeah. Oh, bro. He walks up with his phone, like on his AI phone.
Right.
And it like reads his thoughts or whatever. And he's literally telling jokes through the phone. And so the way that he opens up is he goes, I know what you're thinking. Like, who ordered the Temu version of Stephen Hawking?
Right.
Pretty good. Yeah. Like, it catches you off guard but to your point, give me an excuse and we'll probably solve it with technology pretty quickly. But I think the gratitude's big. And I think that's also where you're at, is how much of this you're grateful for, which is why I'm not just going to go screw it off. I'm not just going to go blow it out and put you and, the missus in a situation, or Colby and the family. Like, no, we really care about growing this thing the right way.
Right.
And we're really grateful that we can do it. I don't think that you've come to the point of like, I've earned this, and so give it to me. I've earned this studio, so give it to me. And to your point, all the guys that I know that are miserable, even the guys that want to tell their story, I'm sure you've come across that. The guys that want to tell me their story, like, oh, you need to do this for me. You need to do that for me. You need to, like, shut up, man. Like, you're nobody. You've done nothing. Mm-hmm. You're miserable. You're like a miserable, angry dwarf. Like,
not sure where the dwarf came in. I don't like that part.
I feel like he's had issues with dwarfs, Colby. I feel like there's something here. In his childhood, there was like a dwarf.
I have a buddy who worked for a company that installed Windows.
Okay.
He now owns a window installing or company that installs. So he took that knowledge, turned it into bidding out jobs that he could fill. Turned it into a company. He's got a business partner. They're franchising it. He makes probably $500,000 a year.
I love it.
He's got a gorgeous wife, 3 gorgeous daughters. I want to say 3. Sent me a picture of him and 2 of them the other day. I see him. He comes in town every once in a while, and this guy's worth millions. Who would think that? You're installing windows.
Correct.
There's not millions of dollars to be made in windows.
There is.
Apparently, I'm wrong about that. And this is one of those guys that, went in the got out of high school, went in the military, got out of the military, was basically a drunk for several years. Talks about his relation. Every time I talk to him, he'll talk about going to church, doing this, doing that. He talks about AA, getting sober. He was just a horrific individual for whatever years, like whatever 4 or 5 years, till he eventually got his shit together, started working for this company. Took that, parlayed that into opening his own company with a business partner, and before you know it, and now he's worth millions of dollars and comes down here every once in a while to have lunch with me and check on some of these franchises that he's got going.
I love it.
And it's like $250,000 to buy a franchise. Fuck. It's you know what I mean? It's just amazing. I'm like, Jesus. Yeah. And this is a guy that was a complete knucklehead. Colby, remember this. This is a guy that when I was, how old was he? 15 or 16, and I was 7. David Simpson. David Simpson. When I grew up, there's no internet or anything.
Sure.
You would there would be popular like areas there's like a Burger King and there's a strip mall, and you would just get in your car and drive around in circles. And it wouldn't be like 5 guys. We're talking about like 100 people, kids, 17, 18-year-old kids just driving around the complex, just nonstop. Girls would hang out, groups, people would get out. David Simpson, we'd be driving the strip, right? And David Simpson would go, oh, hold on, boom. He'd go, let me get out. He'd open the door, close the door, walk over to a group of girls, walk over and he'd go, oh my God, you're beautiful. I saw you was driving. I've seen you twice. You're gorgeous. He's like, can I get your phone number? And the girls would be like, oh my God. And they would give him their phone number, or they would, laugh at him, and he would say, oh, wow, I'm sorry. I just see you were pretty. I just thought, I'm sorry. He'd get back in the car, and he'd get in the car. And so after I saw him do it once or twice, I said to him, bro, you don't know her? He's like, no, that's just how you get to know her. And I'm like, keep in mind, you're a self-conscious 17, 18-year-old kid. And I'm like, what if you walk up to that girl and what if she says no? What if she laughs at you? He goes, he's like, half of them do laugh. And I'm like, he's okay. He's like, but the other half, I get their phone number. And he goes, what do I care if they laugh, Matt? He goes, I don't know that girl. He goes, I'll never see her again. He goes, I've never seen that chick again. He goes, I've never seen that chick in my life. I just saw her. I go up, I tell her. Maybe she's got a boyfriend. Maybe she feels good. Maybe I get her number. He's like, what does it matter? It's good. And the look on his face was just, he had no idea why I had no confidence. He had nothing but confidence. He was, of course, I don't realize also, he's like an addict at that age too. He's that, that mindset that these guys, that same reason your father can do things that most people can't do. And a lot of these guys you talk to that are phenomenal salesmen and amazing people. And then you're like, but you're a drug addict. You're a nut job. You're a nut job. You're a drug addict, nut job, but you've done amazing things. But yet part of it is the drugs. And then when they get sober, they're 10 times as effective. Correct. But that's David Simpson. It took me a while before I realized if you want to start dating, you're going to have to adopt this guy. You're going to have to be okay with being embarrassed. That's tough.
If you want to be successful, you got to be okay being embarrassed.
Well, when you're 17, that's a hard
pill
to swallow.
I agree. But I think coming out, like talking to these guys, like if we're talking with anybody who has a past like you and I have, we're going to be embarrassed. I'm sure yours comes up all the time. Mine does.
Of course. Right. I lean into mine.
I do too. You have to.
I got no problem with it.
You have to.
I was gonna say with the inmates that are getting out, like it's I'd say most of the guys I was locked up with are trying to figure out how to hide their past. And you can't hide it. So to try and hide it or downplay it, you're better off leaning into it. And in a way, if you look at it like this, it's a great moment because when people find out this, when they hear you tell your brief story, boom, 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 here's what's going on. It boils down to this, and people have heard me say this. What it boils down to is there are those people that are 100% acceptant of the person you were and the person you are today, and there are those people that can go fuck themselves. And it's great because those people that can go fuck themselves, I don't need you. You're not ever going to be okay with me, and that's fine. But now I know right away, you're good. It's just like checking the box.
Yes.
Yeah, check the box and you tell me to come in for the interview. I know there's a chance. I might not get it, but you're okay with it. You want to hear the story.
Yeah.
So let's go with the story. And, it's a numbers. Everything's a numbers game. And what is
like your guy David.
Yeah, absolutely.
And now here he is successful.
Of course.
Right.
He was always going to be successful.
If he could get the addict under control.
If he can get it, yeah. Which of course he has. He's a phenomenal guy.
No. But that's interesting. That idea should be poured into them more often. Like you should use this addiction as a superpower.
Yeah. I always think of Tyler's superpower. Sorry. We have a buddy Tyler. He can walk up and talk to anybody.
Okay.
With 100% confidence.
Really?
He's amazing. He's so confident that if he walked up to Brad Pitt, it would take Brad Pitt 4 or 5 minutes before Brad Pitt would realize, I don't know this guy.
Really?
He would walk and he'd be like, Brad, hey, listen, you got to meet Matt Cox. Matt's got a super successful podcast. He's doing great. He's doing great things. He's in here for a couple of days. I want to put you together with him real quick, and then I'll let you go. Matt, come here. This is Brad. So we'd be talking for 3 minutes before Brad would go, I don't fucking know him, do I? That's how he comes up to you so confident. You think, I've got to know him, right? I've obviously met him. We know each other.
No.
It's amazing.
He's the one who connected us.
Yeah.
Tyler was.
Yeah, Tyler saw me on a program, contacted me and said, hey, you just started your channel. What do you need to do to make it a big channel? Because I think you've got it. You've got what it takes. You can be a big channel. You could turn this into something. Because I'm just making videos like on my phone and shit. And I was like, I need to find this is how ridiculous this is. I need to find a guy that will work for nothing until the channel makes money. And then at that point he'll start making money and donate all of his time. That's what he needs to do. That's what I need. And do all the editing, everything. And he's like, okay, well, let me make some phone calls. Like, first of all, that's delusional to think that you're going to, And 3-4 days later, he goes, okay, I got a guy. His name is Colby. He lives about 45 minutes away from you. Can you meet him somewhere? Like in between the two. Brandon's in between you and him. Can you
Serious?
meet? Yeah. Next thing you know, 2 days later, 3 days later, we meet at a breakfast place and sit down. And I say, here are the analytics. Or no, I'd already screenshotted. I think I'd sent them to you. He'd already looked at them. He came. He said, okay, well, based on your analytics, based on this, I think that your channel can do this. I think this. He's fucking full of shit. He doesn't know anything. He worked for a trucking company. He doesn't know anything about this.
I love it.
He had been doing
Sales.
YouTube, right?
I love it.
He'd been doing YouTube, so he has a better understanding than I do.
Okay.
But he's not 100% sure of it. But he sounded really confident.
Yeah.
You got to change the name of the channel. This, and you got to this. People aren't looking up. They're not looking up Inside True Crime. They're looking up Matt Cox, Matthew Cox, Matt Cox, Codman. So he goes through that. We do the whole thing. We come up with an arrangement. And I'm like, but you have to understand, bro, you may be working for the next fucking year. We get a little agreement on paper, write up a little agreement, sign here, say, but you may be working for nothing for the next year. Well, actually, at that point, the channel was making about $600. So it was like, you may be working for $600 for the next year. He was like, yeah, I don't think so, but okay, yeah, I'm okay with that. And then, but all of that is because of Tyler.
Yeah. Golly, Tyler's a rainmaker.
He is a rainmaker.
Yeah.
He's irritating, but he's a rainmaker.
Did he have an addiction?
No.
Okay. I was just trying to link them all together.
Power.
I was trying to make them all.
Power.
Is that what it is?
Yeah. He loves. I don't know. He loves to connect people.
Interesting.
He's an interesting guy. He loves to be in the mix.
Have Tyler call me. I'll tell him what I need.
Yeah. He'll get it.
Sure.
In the midst of this podcast, he's texted us twice with 2 different people. Matt probably doesn't know that, but
yeah. I don't know that, but and listen, here's the problem. The only problem with Tyler is that he will connect me. I'm running a true crime podcast. You've got to interview this guy. He's got 2.5 million followers on Instagram, and I'm like, okay, what's the story? Well, he jumps off of buildings. Yeah, he's a rock climber. He climbs rocks and then he jumps off the.
Oh.
And I'm like, does he get arrested for
Ever?
it? And he's like, no, but he's got 2.5. I'm like, no. We've had this conversation, Tyler.
Yeah. What's the crime?
I need a crime.
I need a crime.
I need it's some
I need
kind
handcuffs.
of related to.
I need
he
handcuffs.
He could be a criminal lawyer even. He could be
rock crawling.
He could be FBI.
Rock crawling into people's houses through their windows.
Anything.
Using the rock climbing to steal.
You get out of prison. Do you go to a halfway house?
No.
Okay.
No. My wife picks me up.
So you walk out of prison. What is it? You're a felon.
Yep.
You're on probation.
Correct.
And what do you do? Like, what are you doing now? How does that
like
turn
day
into
one.
what you're doing now?
Yeah, day one, right? I always love that answer. What do I do when I get out? Because it's true. You know, there's all these hurdles in life, and the more that you can plan for them, I think the better off you're going to be. Because like the restaurant never comes to fruition.
Yeah,
We know that.
Right.
It never comes to fruition. You being a cook at Panda Express is good, is likely. Yeah, my wife picks me up. We went to a hotel. You know, we'd been away from each other. I did 15 months. That was my end time, 15 months on 2 years. And so, you know, we went and hung out for 3 days and you know, figured out life again. And together, her and I. And then I checked in with probation.
Ward, you were a little hard on the beaver last night, weren't you?
We were.
we go to a motel for 3 days and figure life out. Listen,
June,
stop it.
You deserved it. My probation stories are kind of funny. So I check in with my PO on that third day. I think it was third day. And he's looking at my stuff and he's like, man, I know you got to be with me for 90 days of your good time, but I don't know where to put you. I don't know what to do. So he's like, let me call you back. We'll figure out a program that you have to go in because you have to be here for some sort of rehab. Okay, cool. Calls me back the next day. He's like, I got a NA class that's near you that you need to attend, and here's your days and here's your times. And okay, sure, whatever. I show up. Keep in mind, this is 12 years ago. I'm younger and way sexier. And I hope Colby gets that. And I walk in, and it's in a strip mall, right? The lowest rent place you could possibly find for the government to rent out. And it's chairs in a circle, metal folding chairs. And the moment I walk in, like 3 people are like, pss, 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 this thing. They think I'm a Fed.
right.
Shaved head,
Yeah.
no tats. You know?
If you could have an FBI badge on you, absolutely.
Bro, they think I'm immediately. So, you know, I sit down. Like, I never done a drug a day in my life. Never, NA, none of this stuff, right? So I sit down and I'm like, who's starting the class? Like, we're on a time limit here. Right. So this one guy pipes up and he's like, hey, what's your story? I'm like, just got out. Like, got out of where?
I've been following you for the last 2 weeks.
Right, exactly. Hey, Tommy, notice you got a Nissan Altima outside, license plate, right? No. And I go, I just got out of where? I got out of prison, man. What the fuck? What? Shut up. How's that for an answer? Like, what are we doing here? So then we just sit down and they go around the circle. And it starts this story, and I've been, and ding, da, ding, and this is what I'm struggling with. They get to me, and I'm like, yeah, guys, Brent sent me here to satisfy my 90 days of release. I've never done a drug a day in my life.
Right.
They're immediately like, well, we don't believe you. We think that you're here with, you know, like an investigation, you know, so who do you work for? Like, we don't want this type of energy here.
It's enough of that, Todd.
Right. Exactly. Ward, you're going to have to leave. I'm like, no, for real, guys, this is a story. So I show up every day, and about 2 weeks into it, I'm holding the class. And I'm like, Matt, for real, you haven't been sober in 6 days. Like, let's walk through why you're a disaster. Let's whiteboard this shit together. I've taken over the class, right? I'm like, nobody gets chairs. Everybody's standing up. I need energy. When we're here, we're focused, right? Probation officer calls like 4 weeks into it, and he's like, hey, we're just going to mark this off. Like, they've told me, or I wouldn't use the term disruptive. That's what he says to me.
They don't want you to come back.
They don't want me to come back. I'm like, guys, we need results if we're going to waste our time here. You know, like, you're leaving to the car. I see what you're doing outside. You got a 15-minute. You don't need a 15-minute break. Bro, let's get in and get at it. They're like, I don't know what you're doing here, man. I don't know who you're involved with.
I know what's in that fanny pack.
But don't come back and leave your fanny pack. So that was part of my, like, release. It was comical, man. And so during that time, they're making me go and do the, you know, pee in the cup. And I'm giggling. Like,
all right,
guys, this couldn't be further from my quote unquote rehabilitation journey. So I satisfied those 91st days, of good time. I can't remember, it was a parole probation type, good time Arizona thing. And then I had, probation from there. And I got into it with the first probation officer because he said, hey, you can't have your own business. I said, why can't I have my own business? He said, well, they said you can't. Okay, well, who's they? Well, that was the answer. I said, my guy, I don't think you know what you're talking about. But the state organization that complies with licensure, LLC, S corporation, the articles of court, they could care less whether you're a gerbil, a felon, a transgender. Mm-hmm. You file the paperwork, you pay the fee, you move on. That's their job. He goes, I don't think so. So I'm going to need you to get like a pay stub job until we figure this out.
I think you're a probation officer.
I think
that's the lowest form of law enforcement.
Buddy, I was like, wowzers. All right. So I went and, which I loved your story about the gym and the toilets. I went and stocked bread trucks at night. I love that commonality between us because it's like very few people will get out, with our pedigrees and our abilities, et cetera, fill in the blank, and our awesomeness, and go and clean toilets and go and stock bread trucks at night to satisfy, like, I'm not going back to this place. This is never going to happen again. And that was the beginning of, okay, what was day one like? It was programs, and then it turned into like I had to get this job. I actually kind of fell in love with this goofy little job at nighttime. Mm-hmm. It was kind of cathartic, and I would walk people through, and probably much similar to you, the people who were working there were trying to figure their life out, at the bread store. If you're working nights at a bread store and stocking trucks, something's up, The one kid is going to school, like to be a doctor. The rest of us are just trying to figure our life out. And so from that point forward, I just started to rebuild what I was doing before, which was merger and acquisition work on a very small scale. And I'll tell you how it started. Anybody that was a solopreneur, so drywaller, painter, landscaper, pool guy, I call them solopreneurs because like Pablo's the painter, he's a phenomenal painter, but he's only so busy. Mm-hmm. And then he can't take on any more work. And that's usually where they come to and then they stop. Like the wife or the sister or the girlfriend, somebody will do like their books and try to figure it out.
It's hard to scale.
They can't scale.
It's hard to scale a service-oriented business
precisely
without understanding of how
correct
how those businesses can be scaled.
100%. And that's what I started doing. I would literally cold call those guys. Hey,
so you started selling penny stocks in their company?
You got it. You're in the pest control industry. I've never sprayed a house a day in my life, but I know that when a woman sees a rat, she just wants to know how quickly you can get there. So can you take on more work? And then it just started from there. I started with my infrastructure. You need bookkeeping. You need legal work. You need all of these things. How's your insurance? Have you gone through your premiums? They're like, what are you talking about? Oh, this is what I used to do in the private equity world. Much bigger scale. But if you've made 150 for the last 3 years and you've netted the same,
right,
there's a problem here.
Yeah.
So let's walk you through it. And then it started working with these little itty bitty companies. It started out actually in the fitness sector. Most of these gym owners would get to the point where they'd be like, hey, I was a good personal trainer.
Yeah.
You know it. And then they open a studio. And then if the studio goes well, they open the gym or, some iteration of that. But then they're just like, I don't know how many cancellations I have. I'm training people. That's where I make my money, And so I would walk in and go, all right, we've got a studio. You've got one location. How do we get to two? Well, this is what I need. All right, I'm Tyler. Mm-hmm. This is what I need. Great. So we need back office. We need support. We need personnel, systems, processes, procedures. And that was the beginning of like Life 2.0 in 2013.
So once you put that together, you called to get people to invest in the company?
No, I took them on myself.
Oh, okay.
It was just me and my best friend is an attorney, not my attorney, but my best friend is an attorney. And so him and I, his legal background, my financial background, we would come in with our capital and we would say, let us help you scale or let us help you get from working in the business to working on the business.
Right.
And we'd help these little tiny companies and then we would get a little bit of equity in them. Hey, we'll take 10%, 20%, 50%. We'll grow it. We'll help you. And then we'd either exit or, we'd hire an operator. And so that's been the pattern since 2013. And we've been industry agnostic. So we've got simple, unsexy real estate, HUD housing.
Right.
It's HUD housing, government contracts.
Section 8.
You got it. Section 8, all day long. Industry agnostic, but trucking, the guy that runs our trucking company did 20 years. Trucking turns into moving. Mm-hmm. It's all these little itty bitty companies. The one that we just sold is ice cream. Easy hours. The labor costs are low. Overhead is relatively simple, and you don't really need a high degree of acumen to run the place.
Right.
So we built those up. We scaled it to 4 locations, and we sold to a bigger. So that's been the chart of what I've done since I've got out. The passion project is the don't buy a cheeseburger with a credit card.
Right. And what do you go into prisons on that?
Yeah, every month.
Really?
Every month.
Once a month?
Usually sometimes. Several times. Yeah.
Okay.
This month I'll be in probably 3 or 4 times.
And what do you do? Is it like you do like a 20 minutes? You talk to these guys for 20 minutes?
I do one-on-ones behind prison with people who, either the caseworkers or like the captain of the yard will say, hey, this guy's turned his life around. This gal's turned her life around. She wants to do something. So, she wants to kind of spitball with you, brainstorm with you. We call them entrepreneurs in training.
Mm-hmm.
And then the rest is like a massive Q&A. We'll do it in the gym. They'll bring in a few hundred guys or gals, and we'll walk through all of the same stuff that you were doing behind. Like, hey, have you figured out your square footage on this restaurant? No. Do you know what it's going to be called? No. Do you know what you're going to serve? No. Have you ever heard of Cisco or US Foods? Okay, you're going to fail.
Right.
Like, let's stop lying to each other now. Good news is you've got 28 months left.
Yeah.
Let's stop lying to each other. And so, yeah, we go behind prison walls. That little itty bitty idea of financial literacy is now 1,300 prisons in 26 states. Massive.
It's not just you, though. It's got to be a bunch of people, right?
Bunch of people. Yeah. Guys that have actually were lifers on the inside that now work for us in the nonprofit. Guys that I went inside in California, met one of them. He was a lifer, got life at 15, Newsom changed some laws, and he got out. So a lot of really cool redemptive stories, that came from this idea. I never wanted to go to prison. I never should have gone to prison, but I did go to prison. So how do you take it and turn your mess into a message? That's the story.
Hey, you guys, thanks for watching the video. Do me a favor, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell so you get notified of videos just like this. Also, if you want to check out what Travis is doing and his social media accounts and check out Accomplished Ventures, then go in the description box, click on the links and go there, subscribe, follow, do whatever you feel is appropriate. And you can check out his website. You can check out accomplishedventures.org. It's accomplishedventures.org. Thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate it. Please consider joining our Patreon. Thank you very much. See ya.